What's on your evil mind?
Hold your insulting tongue and mark my words well.
How about this rumor that you are really hired, Mr. Stark?
Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat, who apparently needs to remember that going forward very soon, they have to remember to get everything set up, including recordings, before you hit the start button. You can find me at, exactly, you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can also find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter, News Nerds Needs Reddit. You can also find me at CB Caps on Instagram. And with me tonight, the man, the myth, the legend, Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
I feel the need for speed. Ow!
Ow!
Gotta have the clap. Make sure the clap is in there exactly. Yes. Not with us tonight. Is PCN_dirt on Twitter, News Nerds Need on Twitter, newsnerdsneed. I'm sorry, that is my stuff. popculturenetwork.com, Pop Culture Net on Twitter. He has nothing to do with News Nerds Need. And all of his umbrella sites therein. There should be a newsnerdsneed.com coming at some point. Hopefully, maybe. I don't know if I can. But anyway, and last but not least, the Osiris is one Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, CB Cron on Twitter, The Click Nation on Twitter. That's the KLIQNATION. Also, theclicknation.com and Comic Book Resources, where he's over there writing his face off. And boy, have they had a busy time this past week, as we will get into later. Folks, we are going to get into the comic book books of the week, but first, you can find this here program on the Cold Slither Podcast Network. That's cspn.us.
Do it today.
Exactly. You can also subscribe and find this program on Google Play and Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and of course, the Cold Slither Podcast Network's Spotify page. SoundCloud page. That's it. We're about to hit some books. It's been it's a lot of books this week, and a lot of number ones and some good stuff. And we're going to start off with the big boy, the long anticipated book from Marvel and Jonathan Hickman, House of X #1.
Yeah, this is a big one. This is, there's a lot of reading. It's not just story, but also setup, because this is definitely a brand new status quo for the mutants of the Marvel Universe.
Although there is some familiarity with it if you have read Jonathan Hickman's earlier works with Marvel from his Avengers stuff, you will notice a couple of familiar beats.
Oh, as in how they build their world,
basically.
Yeah,
and the exposition therein, But at least in this one, part of it reads like a Gundam manga. Weirdly enough, because he kind of goes through the stuff, or he goes through the scenes, and then at the end has a nice little explainer page of what some of the stuff that was mentioned.
Gotcha.
Which is good and helpful if you're coming through this really fresh, which everybody should be, because as far as we know, this is a hard reset of the X universe within reason. We don't know the full extension of it,
right?
But they killed off everything for this to happen for a reason. So therefore, Hickman and his style, as Tim has said, and we like to quote the Hickman mumbo jumbo, which I said earlier, that mumbo jumbo is back.
It is back. And listen, we reveled in the Avengers mumbo jumbo.
Oh, we did. We loved it. Yes.
It was a great ride, and for fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you absolutely, if you're late to the game,
there are definitely some touches that were
thematically. They lifted generously from Hickman's Avengers run and the Infinity miniseries thereafter.
Yep. So we have some, I would dare say, lofty expectations of how this is going to play off in the 6 issues of this and Powers of X that is coming next week, and going into the whole X line going forward.
Right.
And I guess we can safely say that, yeah, it's starting off on a, well, even though we say it started off on a couple of familiar notes, but.
Right. Let me ring the spoiler bell so we can speak a little bit in detail, and then we can talk about the what we see, in this issue and what we possibly will see going forward. So here we go. Spoiler bell in 3, 2, 1.
Yes. So, I totally forget. I actually forgot how it started off, even though I read off earlier. But
yeah, I was just skimming it. I just wanted to mention that the setup is that mutant kind is literally restarted in a place,
and it feels like they overlooked something, because they mentioned the Genoshan massacre, which did happen a while back, but it seemed like, or maybe they haven't touched on it yet, the Inhuman stuff, because basically they said after this certain point, mutants have doubled in popularity, and are seeking to overtake humankind in a number of years. And in fact, if it wasn't for the Genoshan thing, it would have happened in lesser time.
Right. So what Roddykat is referring to is, there is a setup that is based on the reemergence of the X-Men. Right. So what we have is, and without spoiling everything, we're just setting up the broad, we're giving everyone a broad overview of what this story is at least starting to entail. As we mentioned earlier, the X-Men are kind of restarting, and what Roddykat was mentioning is that there is a countermeasure that has been put in place in the event that the mutant race gains a superior percentage.
Yes.
Let's say, we'll put it that way. Let's say they gain a superior percentage over the rest of humanity.
That's what superior tends to do.
Exactly, and what Roddykat's also referring to is the effects of the Terrigen bomb that happened post Infinity, actually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, there was a time when mutant kind was, mutant kind has been decimated over and over again, and they've had their numbers chipped down to 198.
Mm-hmm.
They've had their numbers chipped down post Terrigen bomb, and they obviously, as Marvel is wont to do, have them recover and rebound with lots of death, but lots of rebirth. So
may or may not have anything to do with the certain acquisition of Fox and Disney, and the fact that mutants are now back in thematically under the Marvel umbrella.
Right.
May or may not have something to do with that on the other side of that, but hey, we won't get into that.
Sure. I mean, good old Ike, must be a little happier now.
I don't know if it's him or Feige, but yeah, since that stuff's been wrested from him.
Right, but at the end of the day, he still must be a little happy about. Oh, he doesn't have to worry about his publishing empire giving an advantage to somebody else's bottom line.
Mm.
So, so in a sense, he is probably, since we're dealing with the publishing side of it.
True.
That the writers over at Marvel can now fully attack the X-Men corner of the world. And when I say attack, I literally mean, setting up a brand new I hate to quote, was it Aladdin, A Whole New World?
Yeah, it's definitely a different status quo than the mutants have had in the last few years.
Right. And what I've read, Hickman let out a bunch of little bits in the form of teasers.
Yeah, I didn't that stuff.
I had not read them, but I had seen teases of information through other sources, through secondary sources, not through anything, or even tertiary sources, not through anything that I had read that he had put out. But my understanding was that Krakoa was going to be important. That Doug Ramsey Cypher was going to be important.
And so far, that's kind of true.
And
well, more true on one end than the other that we know of. But definitely, Krakoa is a big deal.
Sure.
Which actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because it also reminds me of, like, wait, have they ever lived on Krakoa before? Because it felt like they've lived on every major continent on this Earth, or in every major area on this Earth. And I felt like Krakoa is someplace they'd already been. I mean, have resided, I should say.
Maybe temporarily.
Yeah, but I don't remember off the bat, so I don't quote me. But regardless, here we are, and it's not the first time they've had their own little mutant island or hideaway. Not as necessarily a hideaway, because it's just kind of out there, but
right. They're looking for recognition. They're literally looking to become, recognized. Yeah, exactly, recognized world power. Country with borders. So. There's a couple of, and I rang the spoiler bell. There's a couple of interesting character developments here. We without going into, well, let me rewind. Because what I wanted to set up was that the possible conflict that you can sort of see brewing, because there are different parts of the island. There's different aspects of mutant kind that are working together that you don't expect to be working together. Right. So that's definitely going to be a source of conflict going forward. There's going to be a source of conflict going forward with the rest of the superhero community, represented in this issue by the Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the conflict with humanity. It's Roddykat mentioned it right away, because a contingency plan decided to rear its head during this issue. And see if there's anything else I can think of in terms of like a broad brush setup before I get to the character stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of hard, because a lot of the nitty gritty of it kind of deals in
the setup.
Yeah.
And I wanted to mention about the character developments. One of them was Jean Grey. I was like, wow, that's a step back.
Well, but not the first time, probably not the last.
I guess.
Yeah, because I agree with you. It's not the first time, just because they've kind of gone backwards on, specifically with her,
mm-hmm.
in general. So which leads to a question, because not just her, but with not necessarily. We know Charles Xavier. Those who've read Uncanny know that Charles Xavier was back, and I'm only saying that because
I was about to say the readers of Astonishing know how he came back.
Right.
So Astonishing X-Men was the story.
Was that Astonishing? Was that okay? So it wasn't.
It was astonishing how we got this particular version of Xavier. And again, I rang the spoiler bell, but for those of you who aren't in the know, this is the body of Phantom X and the mind of Charles Xavier running around.
Right. Which because those of us who didn't read Astonishing and are starting to trying to catch up on Uncanny, which has probably may or may not have anything to do with this, knowing that he's actually still around, and
right. So for Roddykat's benefit as well, it's a good thing that I'm going to tell you to not bother with Uncanny.
I'm going to read it anyway, because I kind of want to see how some things played out, regardless of whether they matter anymore.
And then you'll understand why I just started to get disenchanted with the whole series, right? And
I felt that during the last couple of
sure. And but I would also mention that if you wanted to at least get a hold on what's going on with Xavier, circle back to the Astonishing X-Men, the most recent Astonishing X-Men run that had how this all came about.
Sure, and also which I already read up on because at least I had gotten that far and already knew that Cyclops being back, which is a small play here, but he does show up here. But and the fact that I, in doing that research, was like, wait, he's died twice in the last like 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, so that's basically he's basically up there with Jean at this point on deaths. More maybe people take, and because people always say, well, she's died the most, which is not true, but but. There are, which I would be curious to see that if somebody's made that list of like who's actually died the most out of the X folks. Right. But anyway, that's neither here nor there at this point because, like I said, yeah, we've got all this exposition, all this setup going on. We have what we did see Charles Xavier. He was there. We didn't, which is weird because normally, he being the quote-unquote head of the group, classically, you would think he would be taking lead on some of this stuff, but since his return, I would imagine there has been some changes with that. And I'm sure that it will come into play as later down the line or somewhere during the course of the series.
Right. My suspicion is that Xavier is behind a lot of this, but he may not be completely running it.
Right, and which also brings to the point that there's maybe more to this whole thing than meets the eye. Because even in reading this, like, there are some things that, like, and people on board and all this other stuff, that something seems like there's something else going on, like you just alluded to. Yeah, there's definitely something else seemingly going on here that I'm sure will rear its head at some point.
Sure, we'll see who's on board and who's not.
Right.
Also wanted to mention that it's funny, they actually did sort of set up Krakoa earlier. Was it earlier this year? They had like a one-shot out about the origins of Krakoa and like Fury and the Howling Commandos coming across. I actually picked up the issue physically because I thought it was pretty good. Yeah. But there's that one note, and another thing that I just thought of as I was scrolling through the book was the creation of a brand new organization, Orcus.
Yes.
It's a weird cross section of a bunch of evil and not so evil and gray area organizations,
right?
That are made up of acronyms and. Some I'm not so familiar with.
Well, at this point, most of those acronyms are not as necessary, particularly if we're talking AIM, has been less evil due to the fact of Bobby buying them and Robert buying them and all that kind of stuff. So, and those are the pockets of that. There's like, I don't recall them saying Hydra in that mix anywhere.
Oh, there's Hammer. Oh, they did.
Yeah, Hammer.
Hydra's there.
Hydra was there. Okay.
Yeah, so, Hydra's there. It's AIM. It's AIM, Shield, Strike. Sound like Strike. Sword, Alpha Flight, Hammer, Armor, and Hydra.
Yeah, Hammer and Armor, and Hydra. Yeah, those would be the contentious ones.
Right. So it was interesting that like you mentioned earlier about how the design of this book had an explanation. A prose and a graphic explanation of what just happened or what you're not familiar with right after the introduction of said thing.
Yeah, which is cool because especially because even if you're coming here with some sort of knowledge on the X part of the world, this is a brand new ballpark. So I was
gonna say it was useful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I absolutely was zooming in on the art, looking at those shoulder patches. Like I don't recognize that pattern. And thankfully, they explained it like pages later.
Like, oh, by the way, here you go.
Right, like stop trying to kill yourself there.
Yeah, him like, I got you. Don't worry about this.
Relax, friendly reader.
Exactly. Also, it is so going back to the familiar touches that I talked about earlier. There is a spaceborne component or a space area component and an Earthbound one, and having to do with plant life, alien plant life, or I guess in this case mutant plant life, being Krakoa. Hickman seems to love that because there was a good bit of that going in his Affinity run, and including a space platform which Tony had made or had cornered then, which is apparently in the damage into control of damage control.
Right.
At this point.
And they actually explain it away in the midst of this book.
And in canon, well, you know, and it's like, oh yeah, well, yeah, we can see how that happened because we even seen part of that come into play before, especially with the Richard stuff. So basically, damage control got a hold of a bunch of stuff that between Reed Richards and Tony Stark, they could not keep their patents up on because neither one of them were around at the time.
Right.
One way, shape, or form. So damage control took possession of them.
It's kind of an interesting play, right?
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, that was smart. That was pretty smart.
So, but I think it's fair to say that this was a definite candidate for Click of the Week for myself and other folks on the review panel tonight.
Yeah, and we will definitely, with Powers of X coming out next week, we will definitely have more to say about this book and that book. Then there's even a healthy little reading order, which thankfully, you know, they seem to do that with certain stuff. Well, I mean, they do that with all their events, or most of their events, but some of them more than others kind of get that treatment off the bat.
All right.
And this one is one of them that has gotten it because at the back of the book you see the reading order. So, like, look, we don't want you to get we want to make sure you don't want to get lost here. And again, as Hickman's done on his Avengers run, he's doing 2 books and they're interconnected. So, you know, House of X and Powers of X are going to be needed to be read arguably simultaneously.
Right. And as we sort of wrap up our discussion on this, I wanted to mention that Hickman has brought back the Omega level mutant concept and has adjusted it somewhat to his purpose, and that seems to be part of the story moving forward.
Yeah, I feel like somebody was missing off that list.
Roddykat's mentioning that there's a list of about 12 or 13 characters who are listed as Omega level mutants,
right?
That are known, but I think that's what they get away with it. They're listed as known.
But I'm saying there's one. I felt like there was one known mutant that's not on this list that I thought was Omega level. I could be wrong about that though.
Okay.
So, because wasn't Scott Omega level? Or I could be wrong. And as a matter of fact, they even go to add on what 8-7 said. They even go on to explain what Omega level is and how it plays, and even the differences between a high-powered, a high-powered mutant as opposed to an Omega level. So that's pretty key right there.
Right, and what Hickman plans to do with
because it wouldn't bring
that concept.
Exactly, because he's not bringing it up for no reason at all.
Right. So this is going to be an interesting read going forward. It's a pretty invigorating jolt to any reader of the X-Men. I also have to give a shout out to the art team on this because
I feel
this and another book that came out this week, I feel like it's not a criticism. It's more of an observation of the evolution of the constant evolution of the what sort of exists as a Marvel style, You know, I've said before that DC sort of has a house style. It's kind of reminiscent of Jim Lee, but adapted. You know, it's adapted and changed, you know, to kind of soften the lines a little bit. You know, you can see that in Ivan Rice. You can see that in some of the other artists that are working for DC nowadays. You know, Pepe Larraz. I was going to say this new kid. He's not new in the sense that he's not new to comics. He's been Valiant exclusive up until now. But the artist on Valkyrie #1 this week, Cafu. That's actually an acronym for his for like a bunch of names. He's of Spanish descent, I think, or of Latin descent. I'm not sure from what country, but
right. In fact, Cafu did, if I'm not mistaken, he did for DC. He did the Heart of the Lion miniseries, which was the Vixen miniseries with G. Willow Wilson.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, because that's how I remember him from, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. I just wanted to just comment on the fact that what seems to it seems that the new Marvel house style is kind of in the natural evolution of Alan Davis and Brian Hitch, with like a touch, you know, like a touch of some Jim Lee influence, you know, like just in terms of the overall aesthetic. But definitely influenced by Alan Davis and Brian Hitch.
Would you say taking some chances?
I'm just talking about like the overall look of it. I mean, in terms of a house style, it's a pretty style.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what they're looking for. I don't know about taking chances. Maybe if I had a better understanding of what you meant by that.
Well, I'm sure we will get into that at some point going forward, because there's going to be more times where this is going to present itself. But for right now, we've rung out House of X. Since you mentioned that, let's get on to Valkyrie #1.
Sure, another big #1 launch this week,
or specifically Jane Foster Valkyrie #1. As
sure. I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised by this issue.
I enjoyed it.
And I should not have been, once I realized that it was co-written by Jason Aaron and Al Ewing.
Right, which I don't remember, and I'm pretty sure it was probably said, but I feel like the only name I remember seeing the last we talked about it being a thing was Jason Aaron, and maybe we overlooked the fact that it was Al Ewing on it then, right. And my fault if it did, but yeah, so which basically means, so we've already extolled the happiness we have of Jason Aaron's writing on playing the books, and we've also done the same with Al Ewing on his Immortal Hulk and other things in the past. But right. Hulk is his big book right now.
Sure. So seeing them teamed up on this is a lot of fun. Like, there really is a lot of great, just writing in this. You know, right. A lot of great character development in this.
Right, and before and speaking of that, going before Immortal Hulk came out, a lot of Al Ewing's work had a lot of fun in it. Not saying that, you know, for what it is, Immortal Hulk doesn't have his things on it, but it's definitely a different tone than a lot of his other works in the past.
Oh, definitely, yeah. This is definitely more in line with U.S. Avengers and that whole run.
So and you can see those little touches in here between him and Aaron, and it made this issue, you know, that much enjoyable.
Right, and shout out to the Fast and the Furious references at the beginning of this book. I knew you weren't gonna overlook. There's no way to avoid it. It's right at the front. And I really loved that of all the villains that they decided to use in this, at the beginning it was Blue Streak.
Freak of all people, right?
Of all characters from the pages of like Scourge era Captain America. You know, we're going way back into the canon, and getting a crew for him and making them, spoiler alert, 3, 2, 1, making them the Fast Five.
Yes.
And I could not have been laughing louder to myself with my headphones on the train when I read this.
And of course, where there comes that, and with all that, there was also a furious joke that came a panel or two later.
Oh, sure, because they got taken down.
Mm-hmm. So that was all fun. But with that, yeah, it you know, as a starting issue arc set of villains, like, yeah, sure, why not? You know, Jane was out kind of stretching her legs, you know, testing out her new powers, and what way to do it is with a crew of has-beens. You know, I've kind of felt like,
or never will be.
Well, yeah, basically. I felt like Marvel was kind of slowing down on their deep cuts, because in the last few years it was like, wow, we've seen like a bunch of deep cuts just kind of come out the woodwork, you know, as far as character wise. And I kind of felt like, and maybe it's been the stuff that I've been reading or whatnot, but it's like, wow, this has been slowing down on characters kind of coming out from nowhere. And this is kind of them like, no, it's still going on. It's still here with that. But that starts off, you know, with that, and we kind of get into, you know, Jane going on her life and her new status quo. You know, we introduce well, not reintroduce, we introduce, but we basically, if you've been reading Thor, I guess, and which, you know, if you haven't, sure, it's an introduction to co-characters of this book, or at least one in the form of Lisa, her friend.
Right.
You know.
Right. We're introduced to what Jane Foster's post Mighty Thor life was.
Right.
Up until the point where the War of the Realms messed everything up, but now has given her this newfound character identity. So, you know, I thought that the story really did a good job of setting up where she is in life and what her thought process is as this newer hero who's not Thor, but is somebody completely different. And it does a good job of setting up both sides of her character, both her secret identity side and her superhero side. And that's actually explored in this issue as well, which is a nice kind of throwback, but in this day and age of you know, it's even kind of there's some meta commentary right there in the book about the utility of a secret identity. It comes up as part of the story,
right? And from there it kind of goes on to, you know, as what at least this first arc is probably going to be, her questioning what her role is going to be, because she's been a Thor before, and now she has this new title and role, and
right. It's a job, right?
Yeah, exactly. As a guest star, or as a guest cameo from the former Valkyrie, which was cool to see, but also like, oh man, she's dead. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I mean, but it's nice. You know, what's funny is that given the premise and what the Valkyrie does, it's kind of interesting to see, you know, this particular character interaction and how it is being set up moving forward. There's a twist.
Basically, even giving her first quest, or
sure.
in service of giving her first quest. Right.
There is a twist in this issue that I was very shocked to see. It's really well done, though. We will see if it's a permanent twist or not. But
you're referring to what happens at the end,
right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we will see if that's a permanent twist or not. But it's great that the introduction of the villain for the ultimate villain, I guess, for this arc, on the cliffhanger page at the end of the book was really well done, I thought, because they kept it in the dark for
right. But I suspect that's not the ultimate villain, and just the one she's kind of up against until it was like, well, I was working for somebody else, or something else is going, you know, something else is bigger is going on from this, because it can't be that person.
Right. What I was gonna say is maybe for this arc, maybe not for the whole, you know, maybe not for the story. My distinct hope is that this book is able to find some footing and lasts beyond, you know, an initial 6 or even a 12 issue run.
Yeah, I was about to say, because there's at least one book this week that didn't make that.
Right. There's a lot of competition out there for trying to find a foothold. I sincerely hope that this book finds some footing to be able to find find a readership.
Right. I suspect that since Aaron's writing this, and and also Ewing is writing this, I suspect this could possibly have more legs than, say, I wouldn't want to say the average book, but some other books were fair.
Well, it's going to have the benefit of coming off of a solid, stuck landing of the War of the Realms.
Well, yeah, but we've seen books. I mean, no matter how good or bad the event comes out, there are books that have come out of events that don't necessarily last.
Stick, exactly. So, but that's the whole
Galaxy,
Well,
I think the actual was meant to, but we don't know if that was the case or not.
Right, but at the end of the day, that's the hope. Is that the folks who are following War of the Realms might be willing to add something else to their pull list and pick this up and give it some support.
Yeah, at the very least, readers of Thor.
Well, Thor is going to be on a little bit of a hiatus. There's going to be a bit of a gap between now and the next issue and the start of King Thor, the last miniseries for Jason Aaron on the character. So we'll see. My hope is that, like I said, people pick up this book.
And
it's pretty strong.
And since Jason Aaron is also writing Avengers, I feel like she'll probably show up there at one point in time.
That's quite possible.
So anyway, but yeah, that's a pretty strong start for that book. Hopefully, like Agent 70 said, that will last. So now we will get on to there's one or two other. Well, actually, there's like 2 or 3 other number ones. I know one of them you didn't read, but that happened this. Actually, you didn't read that one either, did you? The Fillers. Did you read that?
No, I didn't have a chance to. I skimmed it real quick, but no chance to read it.
Okay. Well, I'll get to that in a minute then. But History of the Marvel Universe, you did do that one.
No, I didn't make it.
All right.
I literally knocked out falling asleep. It was such a daunting read. It's nothing against the book itself. I looked at it and I thought, this looks impressive. This is going way, way back. And I just put my head back.
So we'll get to that one after we do this next one then. Swordmaster number 1.
Sure.
So that we both read. So Swordmaster is one of the new agents of Atlas, and was poised to get a miniseries of his own, not unlike Arrow and whoever else is getting. I know there's going to be a couple other people getting books like Wave, I think.
Right. Are they is Wave in the new solicits? Because Wave hasn't had a book. It doesn't have a book yet. It's just Arrow.
I want to think Wave was in the solicits with
Swordmaster.
I could have sworn I saw a solicit for Wave, but I may not be wrong.
Okay, take a look at it. So Swordmaster, just as Arrow was, is a book that's based on a story that's been previously written for an overseas audience, a Chinese audience, and is now being adapted to for English readers by Greg Pak. So the first half of this book is an adaptation of a previously written story, and Roddykat and I were discussing this just before going on the air. It would be nice to have access to the original, story, just to punch it into Google Translate and see how it translates.
Or if somebody was nice enough to do a fan translate, which sometimes can be good or bad. But yeah, if we could just get our hands on material some kind of way and get some translation on it and see what the differences are.
Right, and shout out to computerized pronunciation, because it helped me figure out that it's pronounced the Lin Leah.
Okay.
So we can move forward from there now that we know that that's how it's pronounced.
Exactly. Yeah, because that was when I was like, wait, Lin Lee, boy. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It's like not quite like Leah Thompson or Leah Remini, right? It's a little softer, but that's the sound.
And it's not lie. We knew that.
Exactly. Like, they can't be lie. I've known plenty of Asian folks, but the thing is, you know,
even I knew that wasn't the case. So
right, exactly. Like, there's just no way that can be the case. So if you just look it up online, it's like, oh, okay, so it's Leah.
Right. So that being the case, yeah, go ahead and kind of get the nuts and bolts on that.
Right. So what's funny is that the opening page for this, as in all Marvel books, sets the stage, and it's really a great summary for the first part of this book. We have Lin Leah, the son of an archaeologist, and the archaeologist and Leah's brother have disappeared as a result of an expedition, and Leah is going to investigate, and that's part of the story. That's the quest that he's on, and Leah's father has brought home an ancient sword, an ancient magic sword, just before disappearing, and that is probably part of the mystery. So that's really where the first original story goes. It kind of goes into the beginnings of his investigation into their disappearance. You know, and that's really the nuts and bolts of it. There's a twist at the end, which is interesting. You know, involving a possible message from his father. So we'll see where that goes. And the second half of the book is following the now christened Swordmaster in his travels to the United States after the events of New Agents of Atlas during the War of the Realms.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of War of the Realms, there is a character that we find out at the end of that little backup story that was also in War of the Realms. That is got his eyes on young Lin, apparently.
Right, and we're just trying to figure out. All right, so what kind of game is this character up to now? Because the last time we saw him, he was all cuddly and what.
Right, he had a change of heart with what he was doing at the time.
Right, now he's not looking so cuddly.
Right, but given this character's background, I mean, it's not that surprising. In fact, if we had thought about it, probably if you had thought about it from the reading the front of this book, the first issue was like, well, there's a certain title that gets called up that, you know, also video gamers may know in a certain, most specifically Sony gamers might also know the title in another light. But I guess we could have seen this come up, and I'm sure that's going to play into the person's reasonings for being here.
Sure.
That being said, we just don't know how just yet, but you know, and maybe that'll play into whatever that Atlas book is going to be up, or maybe not. I mean, this could be just central to him.
Right. So it's an interesting way to start these the introduction of these books into the mainstream Marvel universe. Utilizing fairly strong backup stories, which is you know, the American audience is more likely to latch onto, while giving us a taste and introduction to the original stories.
Indeed, and that being
I was about to say traditionally might be flipped around.
Yeah,
you know, whereas the you know, the maybe what we would have seen years ago is the Americanized story leading, and the adapted story with being the backup story.
Yeah. So I'm going to take now that we've done that one, I'm going to take this opportunity to because I know we're going to have a guest in here in a minute or two to do a couple of books that I know you didn't read, and then I think we'll go from there and do like the one or two other books that
just rapid fire it. You got it.
Yeah, and then get onto that. So I'm going to go with Batman: Curse of the White Knight #1, which is the sequel to Batman White Knight by Sean Gordon Murphy. I have said the whole time I was reading that first one, I love that story, and I still say you should go check that out if you're a Batman fan. It's kind of a flip. There we go, and we are welcomed by one friend of the show, Matt Wang.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Welcome.
Doing fine. As we said, Matt here is a friend of the show. But we called him on specifically, which we obviously we would have him on anytime he'd be welcome to come on. But I know he's a busy man because he was just at the San Diego Comic Convention, and we wanted to get his impressions and whatnot from the show. You know, kind of pick his brains. We like to have him on for especially for that kind of stuff, but just in general.
Right. It's a great thing to have someone who is who's an experienced attendee of the San Diego Comic-Con. Right. You can give us some insight on how things have changed and how the show is doing right now.
Yeah, I know I was mentioning to you guys off the show, or before the show, that I definitely felt some noticeable differences this year. I think very positively for comic book fans. They actually shut off car traffic on Harbor. So, when you were just like crossing the street, like you weren't, there were no buses, they cut the car traffic. So actually like crossing the highway, which was like a big issue, because for those of you who've not been to San Diego Comic-Con, for pedestrians, there are only 3 ways to get off the block in the convention center. It's like the 2 ends, and then there's one kind of a bottleneck in the middle. But because there was no car traffic, they were letting you cross the street, and there's a lot of security, a lot of police over there, and it was really nice, right? Like you were able to cross the street very quickly, and I know that sounds really silly, but logistically, like you felt connected to the rest of the convention that was happening right in the Gaslamp district on 5th Street. For those you don't know, on 5th Street, that's where the Hard Rock is, and that's where NBC will set up. There are a lot of events there. There are a lot of like free things for people to do, and it felt like they did a really good job with crowd control. And so all the areas around Comic-Con were just easy to get. It was easy to get around. It was easy to navigate. And it felt like they really had to handle the crowds, which I know sounds kind of silly, but as someone who's been going since 2004, it just felt like a refreshing experience. I think also, for me, one of the noticeable changes was they got rid of the DC decided to pull out from their booth in the last minute.
Wow.
And they merged with the Warner Brothers booth. Which I think the sad part was, all the artist signings got moved to the Warner Brothers booth, and it was just like there was a presence that seemed to be missing in the center, and a lot of people were trying to fill that void, but I think it was so last minute that a lot of people didn't adjust properly. So the Image booth got a little bit bigger. It felt like Sideshow got a little bit bigger. But I think next year you'll see them adapt a little bit better. But definitely the center of the show felt a little bit emptier.
Okay. Kind of like Sony pulling out of A3.
Yeah, yes, it felt like that. But it was cool though to see some of the comic book stuff merge with the Warner Brothers booth, because I got to see John Romita Jr. interview Frank Miller, and it was very intimate. Like I was like, maybe there were like 6 people in front of me watching this interview.
Nice.
I think another noticeable difference is that the movies weren't as prominent, but the TV shows that were comic book focused were very prominent, or genre focused, and that was really nice. So and I was chatting with someone, a gentleman who owns like a major IP, and he made the same observation that the TV shows were out in force. It was the movies that you didn't see a lot of movie promotion. It was all TV, and you felt that in the panels as well, right? Whether it was like Star Trek or Game of Thrones or The Expanse, like the major emphasis by like kind of like my reporter friends and just other people were the TV shows, which I think that's better for kind of the long-term growth of the comic book community.
Right, and I know we have some news about whether that has anything to do with it or not, but the whole, the DC universe merging with that the HBO Now stuff, with their whole merging with that stuff, and may or may not have,
HBO Max.
HBO Max, correct? Yes. So, which I know we have the news on that later on, I think, but.
Well, it's interesting that, and for the information of the kind folks who are watching and listening, Matt wasn't around for Saturday at the Comic-Con, right?
Yeah, no, I left late Friday night.
Right.
Yeah, and
so the caveat here is that obviously the big announcements that came out of Marvel on Saturday kind of lend what you said some credence, because they're still obviously pushing a lot of their television programming through Disney Plus, but their movie content is being pushed off for at least another year plus. We're talking about over the next few years, so maybe not. We're not going to see anything immediately.
Yeah, no, and one other thing that I noticed just chatting with comic book publishers, both kind of independent and major ones, like on the floor, especially ones who are selling stuff on the floor, is that Wednesday and Thursday were very good days for them. Friday was okay, but and then afterwards, like it felt like Saturday and Sunday weren't so great. But for like the comic book retailers, the publishers, the ones I was talking to, they felt like preview night and Thursday were much better than last year.
Okay.
Friday was like, it felt like Friday was flat to last year, but then texting with people on Saturday, felt like Saturday was definitely a little slower, and kind of the earlier days are when people brought their wallets out.
As if they basically got the business stuff out of the way those first couple of days, and then just kind of let the rest of the convention be whatever. Yeah,
that's exactly right. And you guys all both know, I spend a lot of time online on Wednesday and Thursday.
And we appreciate that.
We appreciate it. We appreciate you for spending that time, the time on those lines.
Yeah.
We try not to overstep.
Yes. No, you should, because I love being on those lines, because everyone's really nice on those, especially the Hasbro line. Everyone's so nice on that, and we're all commiserating and talking about what we're buying, and I'm always happy to help you guys out with that. And it gives me an excuse to buy my stuff. Don't tell my wife.
It's only on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of that, because if I remember correctly, last year they implemented some changes to the way Hasbro does their line and stuff, right?
Yeah, and you saw it this year with for exclusives this year, for the major ones like Lego, Hasbro, Mattel, Funko. You basically you basically put your name in a raffle. And for most, and even a lot of the signings, I actually screwed up the Tom King, Mitch Gerard signing, because they changed the rules. But so you got for Hasbro and Mattel and Lego, or for a bunch of them, you got they told you exactly what time to show up, and then you got there, and then you had to line up again, and then they get you back on. For the DC stuff, you had to get online again, and then get a wristband to go for the signing.
Right.
And you missed that, you were screwed. I missed that, so right. I didn't read the fine print there.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, because that's happened at New York recently over the last few years, especially with Tom King signings, where you have to show up as early as possible, get a wristband, be amongst the first 200 people to get a wristband, and then they tell you what time to come back during the day with your wristband on.
Well, he's going to be. I just found out he's going to be at that con in Connecticut at
Terrificon.
Yeah, Mohegan Sun. So that I know you're the one who taught me about that, and he'll be there.
Listen, without just a small deviation from our course, that Terrificon lineup, and we're not getting paid to shill, but that Terrificon lineup is 2 or even 3 times better than it was last year. And that's a huge, last year I drove up there just to get to Alan Davis. And guess what? They've got Alan Davis again. And there are some huge names. The proprietor of Terrificon has reinvested all the money that he's gotten, like from last year and the previous iterations to really go all out. And it's a tremendously impressive lineup. So, well,
speaking of Neil Adams, I got a great story for Alan Davis. Alan Davis was at New York Comic Con, and I missed out because I kind of screwed up because of my timing. He was at the Hero Initiative booth, and he was doing sketches for $100. And the line, it was only single digits. There were only single digits of people online.
Wow.
And I was like, the problem was like I kept having to run away from it, and that's like one of the regrets I have from New York Comic Con. But I got some other good.
Sure.
I met a bunch of other artists and got some nice commissions and signings. So
one of these days we have to get you on to get you to see your collection, because I am very curious of that. You must have bunches of swag.
I have some great. I'll send you guys my list of original art. But I don't have all of it framed, and I have these sketchbooks for my girls, and I get artists to draw pictures there. Some I commission, some just do it for free. So I have some nice pieces. This year I got Jim Calafiore to do Wonder Woman. I had a Gene Ha piece. By the way, Gene Ha is super nice. Oh my god, I spent a lot of time with like him and his wife, and they're super nice people. So if you ever go to a convention, just buy his book May, M-A-E, and he was doing sketches for anyone who bought it of like whatever you wanted. And who else do I this year? Jeff Brown, who did the Star Wars children's book Vader's Little Princess. He did a beautiful sketch. And then Katie Cook, who does the children's Star Wars books, like Star Wars ABCs and Star Wars 1, 2, 3. She has one of the longest lines both at New York and San Diego Comic Con. It's
wow.
Yeah, her line is always like, it's always like 10 to 12 deep.
All right. All right. I mean, what's funny is that just as a quick aside, when you're standing on one of those lines, you don't get to see a lot of the other lines.
Right.
So if you're hunting for a specific signature or autograph or commission or whatnot, and you find yourself stuck on a line, you often miss out on the rest of the show. Kind of what you were alluding to earlier with standing online at the Hasbro booth. I was at East Coast Comic Con earlier in the spring, and I was online waiting for George Perez to sign my stuff it was the better part of the afternoon. So, I definitely did not have a chance to really do much else, but that's what I was there to do. So.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I guess a couple of questions I have. One is a curiosity. So I don't think we've seen any numbers from San Diego yet, as far as how many people were there. Did it seem like it had grown? Because it's usually a big show anyway, so that goes without saying. And you did say they kind of managed a couple of things a little bit better with getting in and out of it. So how was it looking to you in the spot?
It definitely felt lighter. But as I said, like they've done a better job of managing the lines and the people and the crowd. So it's hard for me to judge.
Sure.
But it definitely felt much easier to navigate. Except like there are certain times, like Thursday and Friday, when you're going through kind of the center aisle, especially going through like the Star Wars booth or Lego, it bunches up.
Gotcha.
So what would be one of your favorite things that you saw or got into and the show outside of I know you said like seeing the people and getting online with your folks in Hasbro? Like I'm pretty sure I feel like you've probably seen some of the same people in that line from previous years or something.
I think what's nice about the show, which is a little bit different from New York Comic Con, is that San Diego is not a big place, so you just wander around and just like bump into people. Like I'm pretty sure, and I should have stopped him. I like walked by Jim Starlin, and like and I should have stopped and said hello. Like another time, staying the escalator, and Peter David was standing right in front of me, and he's like one of my favorite writers. So when we got off the escalator, I was like, Peter, I love you, and I always buy something from your booth. I didn't realize you didn't have a booth this year. I didn't know you were coming, and I'll see you in New York Comic Con, right? So, and I think that's a really funny part, right? Or a great part about San Diego is so small. Like you walk down the street, like I was on the Hasbro line, and one of the characters from character actors from Chuck walked by, and I almost like got offline to take a picture with them, So that's really cool.
Gotcha. I mean, that's the jaded New Yorker in you, man. We walk past people all the time, like, how you doing?
Yeah.
We're not trying to stop people to get selfies.
But no,
we got places to go to, just like they do.
I did. So I was, I went to the Skybound Walking Dead bourbon launch party, and
right.
I saw Malcolm Barrett from Timeless and Preacher, and it turned out he went to the same high school as Agent 70 and I.
Okay.
Yeah, so I knew that. So I approached him. I was like, hey, and he was really nice. I was like, my name's Matt. You went to Stuyvesant, right? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, I went there too. And I told him my class, and I was like, because I knew what class he was part of. And, we took a picture together, and he was so gracious. He was so nice. But yeah, that, I try not to fanboy too much around people. But, that was cool.
Going way across country just to see people you possibly could have gone to school.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I don't know if you noticed, I when I flew out there, I sat next to Carrie Preston, who's from True Blood, Claws, Good Wife, Good Fight, and I sat next to her, and I realized her husband was sitting behind her, and I offered them my seat, but they both, I guess, wanted to sit next to the window. So her husband's Michael Emerson, who's Ben Linus on Lost, and also from Person of Interest.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah, I think I do remember seeing you saying something about your or people that were on your flight, and I'm like,
oh yeah, and Agent M from Marvel was on my flight.
Yeah,
the whole Marvel crew was on my flight. So
I'm like, wow, you caught the good one.
Everyone heading out to San Diego.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I had another, because I know there was a couple of things you wanted to bring up. I think you might have touched on.
Well, I mean, we touched on most of it. I mean, I was wondering if you got anything. Did you have anything? Any guests that you wanted to see in particular that you're able to get to? I mean, you said you missed out on the Tom King signing.
Right.
Yeah. I missed out on the Tom King signing, but I saw Hodor DJ. Got to hang out with my friend Danielle Page, who wrote the Mara Tiebreaker graphic novel. Who's an old college friend of mine. You guys should definitely have her on the show.
Yeah,
she's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think you had that on your Instagram, or somebody had that on Instagram, and you retweeted one of the two that from that party.
And then from that. But just trying to think, what do I regret? I mean, it's just like panels are hard. You definitely have to commit to panels. Like I was committed to exclusives and hang out with artists,
right?
And that's what I was doing. And I think that's the thing about San Diego. You need to commit to something. Like
New York has gotten that way as well, because there's only so much time in the day, and a lot of that takes up a lot of time. Going to a panel, waiting online for a panel, getting seated into a panel, all that stuff takes time away from what you could be doing with, artists and doing other things. So it's a precarious balancing act. So it sounds like it's similar in that regard.
Right. So I guess that kind of begs the question, going back to something that I was kind of curious about. Does it, from what you could tell, does it seem like the atmosphere, because the atmosphere between usually shifts between the comics and the entertainment stuff, and entertainment seems to have has grown in the last few years, but have you seen it to where it looks like it might be balancing out now?
Yes.
On that show?
I definitely feel like it.
Interesting.
Which is, I think it's getting to an equilibrium where, if you're a comic fan, you'll find the stuff you like. I felt like the small press area and the independent area they were getting a lot of traffic, and those guys who have gotten a little bit smarter about social media, whether they they raised money on Kickstarter, so I definitely went there to back and buy some stuff from small press guys and support them. And it definitely feels like they're trying hard to make sure that the comic part is still very prominent. Felt like, the Silver Age dealers and the Golden Age dealers were still talking to their customers. Maybe they weren't buying as much, but they were in contact with them, and they felt like they were getting good traffic. I think where you saw, what changed is like the Mile High Comics, right, where they used to have like tons of space selling graphic novels. I felt like those dealers, they weren't as around as much.
Okay.
It was much more specialized, focused ones who were selling comic book, like specific Silver Age comics or comic book art or other comic book merchandise that weren't just back issues or graphic novels were doing great. And that those retailers have died down. Like the typical comic book retailer, I think their presence has died down at Comic-Con. It's been the guys who are a little bit more specialized, whether they're selling action figures or lightsabers or costumes. Like those guys have been doing well there.
Right. You're still seeing plenty of CGC, graded type of books. Yeah, I mean that's gotten to be a really big business. You see lots of people with those slab books on display. I was going to ask, what was your impression of the cosplay?
Yeah, there you go.
I saw some really good ones, but it definitely felt there were less elaborate cosplayers than I've seen in previous years.
Really? Was it anything to do with the weather or anything practical, or?
I don't know. I mean, I saw a really cool one. I'm a big Hulkbuster fan, and I saw a 2-part costume where someone was walking as the bottom part of the Hulkbuster, and someone else was the top part of the Hulkbuster. And then they had someone with them helping clear out the crowds.
That's
I felt like the last New York Comic-Con had more elaborate costumes.
Really? Okay.
Like intricate, complex costumes. I saw some cool ones. A lot of you get a lot of stormtroopers, a lot of Harley Quinns. I saw really good costumes. They were just a little bit more on the, I wouldn't call it simplistic, but
I gotcha.
Not as complex.
Right.
Sure.
I mean, did you see any costumes that were particularly popular? Obviously we're coming off of Endgame and even Far From Home. Did you see like a plethora of new costume Spideys or something like that?
A lot of Into the Spider-Verse.
Ah, nice.
A lot of like Miles Morales or old Peter Parker.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I have seen a couple of pictures of those. Yeah.
I saw some really good Spider-Gwens. Like really good ones.
Nice.
I mean, that was popular even before, like I think with the advanced solicits, I think the book had been out for the original Enter the Spider-Verse appearance of Spider-Gwen had only been out for maybe a few months, and already at New York Comic-Con there were some phenomenal Spider-Gwen costumes out there. So that's not too surprising. But I guess I shouldn't be surprised by whatchamacallit. I don't want to call him Fat Spider-Man, but what is it?
Peter B.
Yeah, Peter B. Parker, right. Peter B. Parker with the sweatpants, because
Yeah, I saw a picture of this, which struck me kind of funny. There was an Indiana Jones, which was like, okay, I don't normally expect to see that there, I guess, but the boulder behind them. That was really good. That was a good one.
Oh my gosh!
So there's still some interesting ones there. I haven't seen like all of the pictures, or at least a good couple of the pictures, but the couple that I have seen from the show, I was like, all right, there's a couple of pretty good ones. Like I said, a couple of Peter B's and so whatnot. So
very cool. Well, I'm glad to hear that it's not as you're there. Admittedly, you're there on the earlier days. I would be interested to see what the difference was on Saturday, because I know you do it on purpose. You actually get out of there before it gets too crazy on Saturday. Whereas, here in New York, we dive into that like head first, we're like wading into that, like literally wading into the crowds at New York Comic Con on Saturday. So I'd be interested to see what the difference is. But it's nice to hear that they're doing some crowd control, and we can attest to New York doing a little bit of that. It's still not easy because it's a bigger city, and it's not as easy for them to shut down 10th Avenue to help with pedestrian traffic.
But I think Javits Center, the setup's a lot better, where there are multiple exits out of the Javits Center. With San Diego, there are multiple exits, but to cross the street, there are only 3.
I see.
Right. So with the Javits Center, Agent 70 and I are big jaywalkers. We'll just cross the street
where we can.
Yeah. Typical New Yorker.
Exactly. I mean, they've done a decent job recently of putting up barricades to prevent some of that. But if you know your way around a barricade, you can just you just got to get through. I would mention that I don't know. I have not been up on the progress of the construction of the new building at the Javits Center that would take the place of the former what I used to lovingly call the aircraft hangar, where the Artist Alley used to be located. And I don't know if that's done yet, so we'll see what that's like in October.
So that's a big. One of the big reasons I love New York Comic Con is Artist Alley, and the Artist Alley in San Diego is compared to the Artist Alley in New York. And part of my use of language here is I would call San Diego is almost like the artist ghetto.
Ooh.
It's just not as.
Oh, shots fired! Shots fired!
It's like 20% of the size.
Wow.
Of Artist Alley in New York. Yes, they are getting for free, but it feels much more like an afterthought and not like premium space.
Gotcha.
I think they finally stabilized it a little bit, but when you go to New York Comic Con, the Artist Alley there feels like there's a lot of love there, lot of like fan love for the creators there.
Yeah, the last couple of years has been tough because of the construction and because they've had to rejigger the layout a little. But
it's still a lot of room.
I guess it was a little warm. I guess the first year that they did it, it was a little warm. They had some trouble getting the AC down there, but I think but the year after, but that was 2 years ago. So this past year was a lot better. I definitely appreciated that they worked on that, and they've also moved the anime stuff around. Unfortunately, it was off-site last year, and this year I think it's off-site but closer.
Mm-hmm.
So at least from what I know, so they're constantly working to evolve. So it's interesting to see how the Artist Alley at San Diego, at least in your opinion, seems to have been lessened. The impact of it has been lessened somewhat over the years. So that's disappointing to hear about the DC booth. That seems like it's a trend for them as well, like kind of downsizing conventions.
Yeah, I think it was the 80th anniversary of Batman, so it felt like they were focusing a lot on the events at like Balboa Park and stuff offsite. So maybe that was reasoning. I guess we'll see at New York Comic Con what kind of presence DC has there, because Warner Brothers doesn't really have a presence there. So who knows?
Right. Did you see anybody rocking the Kickstarter Batman backpack? That artist backpack?
You talking about the Jim Lee backpack?
Yeah, I was curious.
No, not yet. I don't think they're out. Like I filled out my survey.
Oh, okay. Just wondering. I know that the Kickstarter was funded. I wasn't sure if they had been released yet. So.
It was funded multiple times.
Right.
Jim Lee has his hands in everything.
Exactly.
Which is good, but hey, more power to it, I guess.
Well, listen, I've said it on the show before. The biggest draw for me, I didn't kickstart. I didn't provide any funds for the Kickstarter, but one of the tempting aspects of the bag that he had designed was that it fit an actual portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
So not only could you, if you were an aspiring artist, put your entire portfolio into your backpack and be able to rock that and carry that comfortably around. But if you're just using that portfolio to transport prints, that's almost worth the hassle, because it's almost, you know, you'll pay for that bag, you know, like in like one con, because you'll have your prints ready and not have to constantly buy those awful plastic sleeves that seem to pile up. I've got a pile that I don't want to look at in my home office of those plastic sleeves to bring home prints in.
Oh, so I've been hanging out with the flip art guys, so they, you know, you've been supporting them with your plastic sleeve purchases at New York and New York Comic Con.
What's that?
The guys who sell it in New York Comic Con, I was hanging with them. I hung out with them in San Diego. They're Philly guys, like, so they're friends of friends.
I got you. Well, listen, they're always friendly, and they understand. You're just like kind of walking to them at the end of the day with the bare essentials of money that you have in your wallet. Like, oh man, I gotta buy one of these, you know. So,
I will say, I forgot to tell you, one of the highlights of the show for me though was meeting George Takei and chatting with him.
Nice.
So he was doing a signing at Top Shelf, and at the Top Shelf IDW booth, and I got the I have the soft cover, but then I also got the hardcover limited edition, and which allowed me to get online to get a signing from him. And I chatted with him for like a minute or two, and you know, he's super nice, and just told him like how much I've appreciated him over the years.
Kidding me? He was the only Asian representation we had for years.
Yeah.
You know.
So that's awesome. Any other, you know, notable things from the show that you wanna you know, you want to bring out? Your because you said that the vendor section was kind of light. Did you get find any good book deals or anything, or did you even go over there?
No, I kind of spent my book money on a small press indie guy to support them. So,
okay.
You know, I heard a lot of stuff that I can't talk about. But you know, I will say the you know, if you like bourbon, the Walking Dead bourbon is really good. So,
is that out? No.
I think you can order it now, pre-order it now.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I do remember that story. And I was speaking of going back to that backpack. Yeah, it's supposed the estimated delivery was or is this month. So I don't know if they actually been.
Yeah, it probably wasn't. Yeah, it probably wasn't in time for the con. But I was curious. I'm curious. You know, that's going to be something I'm going to be looking for in October at New York. So.
Right.
All right.
I'll wear it to the con with you, and you can take a picture with it.
Oh my goodness!
When y'all going to Dora the Explorer or something? What's going? What's the move for this year?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, you know, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to ask. I'm always curious about San Diego. It's still a bucket list thing for myself. I know you know, it's cool that Matt's a regular. It's still a bucket list thing for me, but
yeah, one of these years, hopefully we will get out there. And I guess I should go and say, like, despite what Agent 70 said earlier, we're not getting paid for any of this. We just do this for the love, but hopefully one of these days we'll, you know, some kind of way we'll get out there, and I'll get up to New York or something.
You can in San Diego. You can always crash in my room, crash on the floor, crash on the couch.
Hey, my friends are just doing that at the con, so that ain't.
That's funny.
Maybe one of these days.
Yeah, like with any luck, you know, we'll get our man at TimDog98 to meet up with you at San Diego sooner rather than later, since we did meet him at New York. So
yeah, he'll probably be the one out of all of us to get over there.
Yeah, I and you know, the two cons I want to go to in the future that I think you guys go to are Heroes Con and Dragon Con.
Yes. I haven't been to Dragon Con in a couple, and I didn't get to go to Heroes this year. But yeah, that is because one, that's closer to me, and well, both of them are closer to me. But yeah, those are great cons.
I definitely would like to get to Heroes. One of the cons that isn't very movie centric is Baltimore, and I gotta make time to head down there. That's obviously something that we can drive to, so it's not nearly as difficult. So
yeah, I've heard decent things about Baltimore.
Yeah. So you know, that's definitely something to keep on my list. That's not a bucket listing because that's definitely something I can make happen even at the last second. So But that's definitely a thought. All right. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that that I heard coming out of San Diego.
Yeah, because most of the stuff we got is like basically new stuff, and I know you I don't know how much you've kept up on it, and we hadn't gotten to that section yet though. But
I'll chime in from what I've heard, and happy to stay on and give more tidbits as they pop up in my head.
Sweet. Well, that being the case, let's go ahead and get back to these books. And so, have you? I don't suppose you had any chance to read anything this week.
House of X.
Oh, sweet. What's your thoughts? Because we just actually finished that not too long before you got on.
It is. It's going to sound really sacrilegious. It felt much better than his Avengers.
Okay.
Oh no! Shots fired!
Get out!
Shots fired!
I mean the design. It felt like. Have you read a lot of his Image stuff? Like
something of his, but I don't know.
I've only read the Marvel stuff, but I started when he was doing FF. So like before all these guys read the Hickmans, were reading anything Hickman, I was reading the FF stuff. So
if you look at his like Pax Romana, his Mars book, and the design elements like for his his chapter separators,
right?
That reminded me of his Image books and a lot of the iconography that he was doing with Avengers, right? Like especially in the beginning, like every character had a logo, right? And that was great, and the logos were awesome, but it felt like, in House of X, like, he created a new language and symbology, and the symbols made a little bit more sense, and it felt more tied to the story, right? Mm-hmm. When he did for the Avengers, it didn't feel as tied to the story, but like all this makes sense for the X-Men.
Yeah, it basically does sound like he kind of refined a lot of the stuff he's used in his Avengers run, or at least so far, anyway.
I am interested because I really actually liked Matt Rosenberg's run.
We definitely differ on this.
Yeah.
It just felt it started to feel gratuitous towards the end for Rosenberg. I'd like to hear what your take is.
And I tweeted this. It's his run. No matter if you can nitpick at like the individual deaths and some of the plot elements, like I think the atmosphere and the whole run felt like part of the reason why I fell in love with the X-Men in the 80s was this. They were the outcasts. They were about to lose all the time. Like, especially you remember like after, like let's say like 205, 206, like they're bound in the Hellfire Club and like in Central Park. And it felt like, wow, they're going to get the poop beat out of them. Right. And it had that sensibility, but then like this love of like the 90s X-Men merged into there, and you felt the love when he was writing the book, and that's what I liked.
I understand.
They weren't the premier superhero team, and it felt like it was the last days of the X-Men.
Right, I got that in the first 6 or 7 issues, but once we got into double digits and things started to accelerate, at least in my opinion, as you mentioned, it just got to be a little much. The deaths started to pile up and started to mean less and less. So, that's where I kind of got off the ride a little bit. But I definitely understand that feeling, especially because I had the same and similar feelings at the beginning of the run and towards the tail end of the first half of it. So,
yeah,
I guess not that you say all of that though. I guess it's knowing that this is going on right now. You really didn't have any kind of. He had nothing restraining him, so therefore he just kind of went with what else because he knew it was probably all going to mean less or little to nothing. Or we don't know going forward, but it doesn't seem like it's gonna, like, hey, it's all this is gonna end, so just go nuts, So,
All right.
But already is. So I don't know.
But yeah, I really enjoyed House of X. I'm excited for the future of it. I am interested, and someone will probably do it. Someone will probably write the bridge between the Rosenberg run and the Hickman run. Like someone will probably write some bridge to it.
If it's not actually part of this event,
Right? Yeah. If it doesn't actually come into play at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would have to be some pretty deft writing to do because, well, again, having not read all of Rosenberg's run, knowing a couple of things that happened in there, like, good luck trying to pull that all together, but somebody will do it.
All right.
If that's the case. So that being the case, I think we're going to.
We can rapid fire the rest of our.
Yeah.
I mean, one to save Matt the spoilers on some of these books because you might be reading some of them. Yeah, I only have a few books left.
So let me go ahead and finish up the one I started with before you got on, which was Batman: Curse of the White Knight. And all I will say is, like, listen, I was basically a big fan of the first sequel. This one kind of feels like it's a business as usual, but still in that universe. But that being said, there's still some particularly interesting parts. Like there's a character that from the Bat family that got introduced in this, and Batman's still kind of dealing with the fallout of what happened in the first book, and it still has to do with his family. So like I said, that's still a tie that's still there from the first series. So hopefully this one is going to kind of pick up, because the first one, like it hit hard and hit well. So that's that. But yeah, so let's go ahead and we'll cut off. Since we'll do one more book and then we'll rapid fire it. And since we both read, where did we leave off at? I can't remember.
Swordmaster. We finished it off.
Right. We did Jane Foster. We did Spidey.
Okay. Did we talk about Doctor Strange?
We did not. You want to do that one instead?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, let's do Doctor Strange. Why not? So Doctor Strange number 16. We kind of talked a little bit about this earlier, but it felt like this potentially could have been the penultimate issue, even though, because I know you even asked that.
Right. I wasn't sure.
Right. Which it is not, because the series is ended at 20. But the way this kind of played off is like, yeah, this seemed like it's kind of getting there kind of quick. So I'm kind of curious as to what they plan on doing when they get there. Right. So this is basically the big fight between the forces that be and Galactus, a Dormammu powered Galactus.
Right, the new magically powered Galactus. Because everything is magically delicious, and that's really not a pun in this. Because that's really how Galactus is operating in the magical part of the MU. Literally devouring magical beings and supplementing his power. And that seems to be part of the stratagem that Doctor Strange is employing in here to try to make a last stand against Galactus. My only note in this is that the cost of the final battle is very Endgame-esque.
Seemingly, I can see that. Yeah, which you kind of hate to keep doing that, but at the same time, we know Marvel is taking beats from the movies, which, as we talked about last week, shouldn't be the case, but it is at this point. But so it's very easy to say that, hey, this book that just came out shortly after this thing happened, with some similar beats, are going to have some similar tone to it. Whether that was like, obviously we know that these books kind of get plotted out like 4 to 6 months in advance at the very least. So, and Endgame had its filming time, and
it's not exactly an original.
That is also true.
Premise either. So,
but again, like I said, you can't help but notice things like that, and it's kind of, in some small way, a little disheartening. But this is what we got right now. Right. But outside of that,
You want to bring up Amazing Spidey number 26, and we'll wrap it.
Let's do that.
Oh, that was good. I did read that. That was good.
Okay, sweet. So this is Amazing Spider-Man number 26, and this is basically just picking up on a beat from like 2-3 issues ago when Elektra got broken out.
Mm-hmm. 2 issues ago, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like 2 issues ago. And this is basically, as I said in my notes, Beetle giving Electro the hard sell for their syndicate, which is basically, as I've said, seemed like another version of the Sinister Six, just rebranded. Which I know there are 2 of them that are floating around right now, so I feel like those 2 are going to come to a head.
But don't forget, back in the late '80s, there was a Sinister Syndicate.
Right. So yeah, so this is also bringing that back up. So as we said before, everything old is new again.
Right.
In certain points. That doesn't mean it's not good. That just means that we just notice it as people who have seen the stuff before.
Sure.
Exactly.
Can you guys tell me with it's not a spoiler. There's a new Trapster, but has that Trapster ever showed up anywhere before? Because everyone else I know has showed up.
Right. That I'm not sure.
I bumped on that, and I'm not 100% sure as well.
Yeah. Because just like you, everybody else, I was like, okay, I've either seen this person or read up on them at some point, and not that one I'm not sure about.
Yep.
So,
but Spencer continues to push Fred Dukes on us. Boomerang, really trying to improve evolve that character.
Superior Foes of Spider-Man is really good.
Yeah, but I'm saying like it's just the continuing saga of the improvement or the
Well, not only that, we got the folding into the friendly neighborhood stuff too, with the stuff going on with Feast and Aunt May, and that, which I'm pretty sure they did it on purposely. It was like, hey, in case you want to know what this stuff is going on, hey, we've got this other book over here,
right?
So, but otherwise, it was pretty good read. I kind of enjoyed like the whole hard sell bit and it not working until Boomerang came into the question. Then it was like, all right, fine, I'm on board, because a couple of them have past issues with. Do
you currently have any outstanding warrants for your arrest?
Right. What do you think?
I will say that it is nice that Nick Spencer writes connects a lot of his books together, right? Like you think about Beetle, right? She was prominent in Ant-Man, Astonishing Ant-Man, right? And and he weaves that. If you read all of Nick Spencer's books, you see trends and connections, right? Astonishing X-Men, he had the Minion app, right?
And that came back through with Ant-Man and some other places too. Yeah.
So I do enjoy that. That if you're a Nick Spencer fan, like things will pop up, right? And even in it's a Captain America run, right? Like some of those themes get tied into other places.
Yeah, I feel like between him, Aaron, I guess Ewing kind of does it every now and then too, but they kind of was like, well, they like, as I said before, they like playing with their toys. So and sometimes they'll come back and
Ewing definitely, right? Like in the last 2, those Avengers miniseries, Ewing definitely does that.
Yeah, they have their own mini stable of characters that they like to play with over and over again.
Right. Like some of Jason Aaron's Wolverine the X-Men characters showed up in Thor. So.
Yeah.
Right.
Which, well, I don't know.
Yeah. And when was the last time you saw the spotlight on White Rabbit of all people? So
outside of Hunted, yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean, even I thought that White Rabbit was a surprise inclusion into the Hunted storyline, and now she's back in this newly formed syndicate.
Right.
So.
Again, going back to what we said earlier, the that kind of tend to parts that come up every now and then. So, but yeah, so that was Amazing Spider. I don't think there was anything else that was kind of, because there was no more on the Kindred stuff except for kind of mentioning them once.
You mean Caterpillar Man?
Yeah.
So,
but
yeah, it looks like this is an interlude type story with this new syndicate, and obviously they're going to play on Spider-Verse and use this female octopus person.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of mad they didn't use that. They didn't bring in that version.
Yeah, this is somebody else, right?
Right.
It was the existing version. The one, the 616.
Yeah, Lady Octopus. Okay.
Yeah.
I forgot she existed. Sorry. You know,
it's the deepest cuts. We can't all think of them all.
Didn't I thought you wrote the Marvel wiki entry on her?
Oh, you know, like if they're not in the old school Marvel Universe handbook, I have some problems. You know. Anyway.
So moving on from there, and I guess, hey, speaking of that, I know you went to sleep on this. Actually, you know what? Rapid fire, hit that real quick.
Get it up.
History of the Marvel. I'll go ahead and do mine because I know I got a slightly lengthy.
Yeah, you missed out on this, Matt. I actually fell asleep before I wanted to read this. I literally opened this up on my review copy, and I was like, "Oh, this looks very good." There's a lot of reading.
Wait, what book is this?
History of the Marvel Universe. It looks good. It's I guess the idea of going to the beginning of everything was a little daunting for my tired brain, and I literally knocked out.
Yeah, it's one of basically a historical compendium, I guess, briefly. I would say it's like Grand Designers, but more
more general.
Is it like is it like the old Marvel saga?
Yeah,
I didn't really get that feeling.
Okay,
because
probably in a way, but not just specifically though.
Right, the old Marvel saga literally pulled scenes from, and this is a shout out to any of people of a certain vintage who remembered the old Marvel saga, and that was their education in Marvel deep cuts in Marvel history, where they literally pulled like panels from books and interspersed and kind of fit them together so that they would read cohesively with little, prose paragraphs in between explaining how the action was happening concurrently or happening consecutively, depending on what was actually happening.
Right. Some would argue that Grand Design is probably an evolution of this in a way, but like I said, not strictly. And I feel like there's been uses of what you just said happening in recent books, but it goes away from me now. But basically, so the premise starting off, which is I kind of love it, how they explain how they kind of go in it. It's basically Galactus and a grown-up Franklin Richards at the end of the universe or a universe. And Franklin was like, "Hey, tell me, basically tell me everything that happened, tell me all the history, roughly." And then they just start from the Big Bang and go from, the Galactic Celestials and all, everything that happened in between them, the Elder Gods and everything that happens up until a certain point. And that's pretty much, and it's like I said, and they do a nice little, as a matter of fact, I think it was this at the end of this book, where they kind of did what they was like this, but except for it's like, hey, this part came out of this, came from, you can read about this stuff here, or you can read about this here, and you can read about this, and they have like panels of the pages, just showing it this way. So it's interesting. I think this is a 6-issue book, and Mark Waid's writing. I can't remember who's doing it.
I see what you mean now, right? Because there's a section that's annotated at the end.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This seems right up Mark Waid's alley. This is like the book he should be writing.
Yeah. So this is his thing, and so far, like I said, if you ever wanted to see a nice little brief history of the Marvel Universe, even with the because they even have the revisions of the more newer stuff.
Yeah, we're up to what I was gonna say is that it actually includes the most recent retcons. So if you really wanted to be up to date, this is what you need to read.
Yeah, so you should
Avengers 1 billion BC.
Yeah, they're there stuff in here. So
they're there.
Let's see what is next. Dial H for Hero number 5. I love Sam Humphries. so this book continues to be a treat for me. This is kind of restrained Sam Humphries, though, that I will say this is. So if you know anything about the series, it's this kid named Miguel, who's in a small podunk town. The way he gets out is basically he and his other girl hijacks his uncle's food truck because he's in possession of the H-Dial, and he needs to get it to Metropolis to Superman because he's a big Superman fan, big idol who apparently has saved him once or twice. So And along the way, they've come across some resistance. Other people are trying to find the find the H-dial because they're former users and just felt the need to connect to that power again. Well, in this one, like I guess the main big bad, Mr. Thunderbolt, finally gets it, goes into quote unquote the hero verse, which is almost like the well, they do allude to the Speed Force in here also. So I guess the hero verse is another multiverse or a place beyond the Speed Force. And there's a little secret origin going on here, and you see a whole bunch of origins of heroes before getting into like I said, a little bit more about Miguel and the place and the things about this the hero verse and whatnot. So, which was stuff we did not really know about. So it's cool. I don't know. I don't think it's anything that's going to be groundbreakingly like this is not going to rock the DC universe, or anything like that. But this is kind of a little something on the side that's kind of interesting so far. Martian Manhunter #7. Yes, I am actually still reading this mess. So what?
That book's still around?
That book's still around. Yeah, we actually said that exact same joke the last time we talked about this. Yeah, and it's still. I'm not gonna say it doesn't make any sense because they've actually kind of grounded it a little bit because now all that old Marps stuff is kind of looks to be out of the way, except for the fact that basically an old enemy of John's is on Earth and they're doing something with humans, and this also has to do with a case that he and his partner is working on, and his partner just found out at the beginning of the series that that he's a Martian. So they're still coming to grips with that, and it looks like this issue they've started to turn that corner on that. But yeah, so we finally found out what the big bad is kind of trying to do on Earth, and it is what it is on that one. Guardians of the Galaxy #7. So I know you said so what? Oh, you ready?
Yeah.
Sweet. So I know Agent 7, you said you were going to read this, right?
Yes, I'm going to read it. I did not.
Without too many spoilers, an old galactic foe has come back, and they're quite different, and they're not even from the time you think they are. But of course, as tends to happen with the Guardians, of course, things are coming from the future. I will say that much. And Peter and crew get into a thing, and they lose badly. And so the rest of the Guardians have to call upon someone who apparently is going through some hard times between the last time we saw him, which I know, and coming from solicits that I've seen a while ago, they are talking about something happened to this character. We don't know if it's an actual thing or if something else is going to happen there's going to be a change to the character, something from this, but we will see how going forward. But yeah, I kind of enjoyed this issue too, because it was like, all right, things kind of actually, and there felt like there was a little bit of cinematic things going on, especially between a couple of characters.
Yeah, I will say I'm very interested in the love triangle that's going to happen in the future. And then I did have one pet peeve about the issue, non-spoiler. I won't spoil it, but I'll just like there's certain thing that happened in the beginning, and I was just like, really, those guys are gone again? They already got destroyed once.
Right. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I'm like, that was like there wasn't that many of them left as it was, and now you're just gonna just scrap them like that. But they may not be gone though, given what we found out later on the issue.
Yes, you are right. But it was just like, I was like, really?
Exactly. But it was like,
useless.
Right. It was like, y'all just don't even care, huh? All right, that's cool. Plus, we know what events coming up, they can't possibly just scrap them off the board just like that. But it is what it is. The Fearless #1. So this is an anthology with looks like all female creative teams featuring all female characters. So then there's 3 of them. There's the first story, which is basically Sue Storm, Carol Danvers, and Aurora trying to figure out, they have all been tasked to speak at this leadership conference, and they all have doubts of whether they are good enough to do it. So they're going through their things with that. And then the second one was a Millie the Model story, which I'm like, okay, that's different because Millie the Model, you hadn't seen her in a good minute, and
was Hellcat there?
No, actually no. This is like straight up like, hey, Millie the Model and just a couple of people in her thing. She's on a photo shoot, and she has some young people with her that she's dealing with, and it's just kind of that sort of. She's kind of being a role model, but it's just her doing a modeling thing and helping folks around there. But it's the least superhero thing or capes and tights superhero thing to do, but in her own way, she's like, well, she's being a good role model, so. There's that.
I swear to God, I'm sorry to interrupt, but like I keep hearing Cab Calloway every time we talk about Millie the Model.
You need to mooch you.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
Cab Calloway.
Yeah, but it was like I said, it was an interesting change of pace. And then the last story was I hope they're going to do something more with this, because I know this is I believe this is a 6-issue a deal here. I can't remember, but I know it's a mini, but I can't remember how many issues it is. And it's Elsa Bloodstone calling Jessica Jones because she has to help with a bunch of little problems. I'll just leave it at that. But it was cute. I wanted to see a little bit more of that.
I just scrolled through.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Shout out to Scotty Young.
He's making all that money on the pins, so
yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I almost asked you to give me some of those pins, but no.
You don't understand, the Marvel line was insanity.
Wow, I know pins are a big deal now, especially with Disney pins and Marvel pins too. From what I hear.
I mean, he also had like 30 new pins.
Right.
He had to spend like $300 if you want all the pins.
Yeah. Like I said, pins are big now. I'm like, more power to them. You can't do it. But let's see, where are we at? Oh, you read this one, Agent 70, Magnificent Miss Marvel number 5.
Yes. This was the culmination of the Off-World storyline that Saladin Ahmed has sent Miss Marvel and her parents on.
Yes.
So we find the, I guess, fulfillment and the story behind the legend of this particular planet savior, which was teased at the very beginning of this arc. And without getting into it, I don't know if you're reading this, Matt, but they're successful in one regard, but upon returning to Earth, there's definitely a little bit of a twist that ends on a down note.
Yeah, I was like, damn it! First Aunt May, now this. What the hell, man?
Yeah, that's tough. Tough.
Okay. Oh, and also, like I think you may have said, Kamala's got a new suit. Which
no, I didn't say that. Yeah, it's very modern. We'll put it.
Yeah, it is. I'm hoping it's not somewhat of a techno symbiote. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh gosh,
that's the only thing I'm gonna say about that.
I didn't even go that far.
Absolute Carnage is coming, so
right. Yeah. Well, this is
it's actually based. Yeah, it's based on. Yeah, I was about to say it's based on alien tech, and if you're familiar with Miss Marvel's origin, you kind of figure out why she's able to use it and wield it.
Right. Yeah, so it's more nanotech than biotic, but at the same time, like, you know what, the way things are going right now, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, exactly. That's not a twist that's far fetched.
Yeah, like, oh shit, this is a symbiote, and she's gonna get pulled in whatever that stupid absolute carnage thing is gonna be.
Yeah, we'll see. All right.
Let's see, Star Wars number 69. There's really not much to say about it. Everybody's still on their missions. Chewie and 3PO hit us two other snags on their mission, and Luke meets a stranger who may or may not have something to do with the Force, or knows about it at least. And Han and Leia are on this planet, and they're had a slight argument about her ex-boyfriend, and before they get into whatever their mission is. Let's see, Shuri number 10.
This show has a great cover, by the way.
Which one?
Star Wars number 69.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. Yeah.
I think it's Phil Noto, and Phil Noto is doing the art. That cover.
He is going to enter also, yes. So, yeah. Yeah, and the art's still pretty good. Shuri number 10 is the last issue of this book, which I'm sad about because I enjoyed it. But it leaves on a pretty decent note. The takeaways is after dealing with the space cricket, having come to an understanding with it, she gets her powers back. She gets a lead on T'Challa, which if reading Black Panther, you kind of already know where that is at this point. And the book just kind of leaves on a high note in that respect. Hopefully there may be something else come along with that, but the only thing they teased at the back of it was the upcoming Agents of Wakanda and whatever's going on in Black Panther Prosper. So, let's see what we did. James Foster, the Swordmaster. Oh, last book. Star Trek, The Q Conflict number 6. So I did a reread because I had kind of fallen off of this for a second and then kind of came back on because I knew this was the last issue. And this whole series still continues to be as fun as it was when it first started. So basically, if you did not know, it's basically a a contest of champions, but in the Star Trek universe. So Q and a bunch of other higher power entities it's Q's idea, but he got them together to pit each other against each other because they were already in a war, but they decided to change the way they fought it because of a talk between Q and Picard, which leads into them doing that. So you have various iterations of Star Trek teams. So you got TOS, you got Voyager, Deep Space Nine, TNG. One version, a version of piece of them all got together, mixed up into teams headed by the various captains, working for these different entities. And so they're sitting there playing games. Not playing games, but they're basically fighting for who knows with Q, because it was like, hey, it kind of started off with one thing, but it was like, but with Q, who's kind of an agent of chaos, whether it was actually going to go off as planned or not, regardless. But this was basically another way to solve their war, and Q was kind of stepping up the stakes, and of course, and the Prophets ended up coming in one issue, and Wesley ended up coming in last issue with the Traveler, and another Q who ended up helping out, and then this issue. All of the crews kind of got together, got the upper hand, and then, of course, as with any dealings with the Q, kind of ends up in stalemate, and a treaty was signed, and that was that. But it's still a good read, I would dare say. If you're a Star Trek fan and kind of interested in anything I've said in the beginning, like it being a contest of champions in the Star Trek universe, still pretty fun. And that's it for my books. And I don't know if you had anything else, because I think we pretty much
No, we did. We covered it.
So that being said, unless you have anything else you read, Matt, this week, or you got around to your
No, I think you covered it all. Thank you.
Sweet.
Clicks of the week.
So as per usual, we got 2 of them already, and one of them should not be a surprise if you're a long-time viewer, listener of this show. But we will start off with Dirt, whose was, and let me pull up what he said actually. Detective Comics 1008.
Which sounds so weird to say, right?
Yeah, no, right?
Just a number.
Yeah, no, a book getting past 1,000. Yeah. But yeah, no, because you would think there hasn't been a Marvel comic yet to do that, despite despite all the restarts and whatnot. But yet DC's got like 2, 3. But yeah, anyway. And he says Batman versus Joker is somewhat by the numbers, but considering the mess that is the Batman titles these days, a Batman story with great art, bold colors, and a timeless plot is a welcome addition to my reading list.
All right.
And from Tim, again, should be no surprise, House of X number 1.
Yeah, I think I'm going to second that. That is my click of the week as well. House of X number 1.
Okay, make this easy. Great. Matt, you got one?
House of X.
Oh shit! All right. I'm just gonna put that in here. And of course, me being the one.
Well, that's what you get for reading like everything.
Yeah, I know. I read that.
You got a lot to choose from.
Yeah, I read an assload of books. Ugh. That Jane Foster book was pretty good, though.
It was. No, listen, I don't blame you for that. I don't know if you read that yet, Matt.
No, it's literally like on my stack right now.
Okay, it's a good read. It's a good read.
It's an enjoyable read. Yeah, definitely.
By the way, speaking of War of Realms, my buddy at work is a big Russell Dodderman fan, and
nice.
So Russell, he does everything digitally, but he only sells one artist proof. He bought the War of Realms promo.
Wow,
recovered.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I was in his office admiring it yesterday.
thinking of ways of getting off the wall, maybe.
Oh my God, it's beautiful.
I mean, I talked to Russell Dowderman as we allow. We're not going to completely let Roddykat get away with this.
I was thinking.
So while you're thinking, I was just going to mention that I met Russell Dowderman kind of off of the start of Mighty Thor, when there was still a lot of hubbub about the launch of the title in the direction of the female Thor. I don't think they had revealed that it was Jane Foster at that point. I got him to sign the #1 issue, and I gave him some kudos because his layouts were dense but very well thought out. And he's done a lot of work to really, refine his style, and he's gotten really good over the last few years that we've seen his work in the Marvel book. So it kind of brings me back. I don't remember if he had any. He probably had prints to sell, but I don't think he had any original art to sell at his table.
It's all digital.
Yeah. No, I mean that's what made me think. Going back to what I remember seeing on his artist alley table in his booth. So, all right, you got one, Roddy?
Star Trek: The Q Conflict #6.
All right.
Yeah, House of Flex. I still need to. House of Flex is good, and everything I would say give it the click for would be for past stuff, and I need to see more before I do anything more. And Jane Foster is good, but hey. That being said, let's get to the first ad read of the night.
When we're in a hurry, this is what we read. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us, then click the Keep Our Podcasts free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, and trade paperbacks. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today. Now it's time for the news.
And yes, as they say, the news doesn't stop because we are a week shy away from San Diego, and stuff's still coming out, including that which I did not intend to do. Wow, that was the wrong sheet. Aha! All right, but yeah, there's loads and loads and loads of news, and we're going to start off with the cinematic news on a down note, sadly, because crew member on DC's Universe's Titans killed in accident at special effects facility. So this came out last week. I think right after I want to say it was right after or the day we recorded or something. So Warren Appleby, the show's special effects coordinator, who had the same role on Guillermo del Toro's 2018 Best Picture Oscar winner, The Shape of Water, was killed Thursday after an accident which occurred at a special effects facility during preparation and testing for an upcoming shoot. Like I said, in addition to, like I said, he was working on Titans at the time, obviously. The Shape of Water we just mentioned, but apparently had a 25-year career, which included the likes of the It reboot and It 2 and a bunch of other stuff. So that is sad news. And so they set up a GoFundMe page for to raise money for his wife and kids.
Oh, it sucks.
Yeah. So next up, though.
Yeah, speaking of Titans, season 2 is actually going to be more concerned with Bruce Wayne rather than Batman. So if you had watched Titans on DC Universe, you know how the story ended, and there was the tease of Batman in the Titans corner of the universe. And apparently where they're going is more focused on the Bruce Wayne alter ego.
Yeah, I still need to catch up with that. I guess that being the only show still existing. Well, no, we don't know where all that's gonna go.
Right.
But next up, first Harley Quinn trailer. Warning: mature content. So yeah, there was a trailer for Harley Quinn's animated series at Comic-Con. I still haven't watched it, but apparently there's something in it that's mature.
Right. My understanding, I'm not 100% sure about the mature content, but this is the animated series.
Yes.
And, you know, what kind of expectations can you have at this point? It's not Bruce Timm, and, you know, it's not in the Young Justice corner of the universe, as far as I can tell. So
no, this is separately.
Right, it's something completely on its own, so we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Speaking of Young Justice, season 4 is already in production. I actually am pretty much up to date on Young Justice. I think I caught this past week's episode, so I should be up to date on it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I need to get there. Like, for some stupid reason, I decided to do a rewatch and not held myself off on that. But that's my dumbness. Next up, DC Universe panel reveals the future of the streaming service. So, given all the news we've seen with you know, the cancellations of certain shows and, you know, the renewal of certain shows, and we had heard rumblings of there being a service, which we now know of, that consolidates all of the stuff. We found out from this panel that apparently DC Universe is still going to be around and not just swallowed into HBO Max from the takeaway from this, because Swamp Thing, I think that, or not Swamp Thing, Doom Patrol is what they said, but basically that and Titans and other stuff are going to be simultaneously put on both HBO Max and still on DC Universe.
Right.
So, which is good, because I'm kind of happy they did that, because I would have hated for like them to just consolidate all the stuff that's in DC Universe, which has gotten better, you know, content wise, into that bigger thing, which, you know.
Right, because you would lose some of the focus on the comics as well.
Exactly.
So, you know, it would be interesting to see if they did do, you know, one gigantic app, but it would be pretty confusing to have to filter through all the other stuff to get to the comics. But it would have been nice exposure for the comics, to be honest.
Yeah, but basically, like it says here, like the HBO Max's thing, it's coming in 2020, excuse me, and Doom Patrol's going to be there. It didn't say Titans, just Doom Patrol. But that doesn't necessarily say that some of the other stuff is not going to be there.
Sure. Let me fold in these these next two stories because they are related. So ahead of Comic-Con, the CW released a new trailer for the Batwoman TV show, but unfortunately, the star of the Batwoman TV show, and I think some of the cast had to pull out of the Comic-Con Batwoman panel because they were filming. They were too busy filming and they couldn't pull out. So, you know, Ruby Rose posted online a message about not being able to make it to the panel and being, you know, and being apologetic for it.
Right. Now, before, this is something totally off the thing, but slightly related. I had heard that some people had, and these could be just these people, so I can't hate giving credence to it, but I have heard that there are some people ahead of San Diego had seen the footage and it was not great.
Mm.
From Batwoman, but like I said, that's neither here nor there because you never know who these people are. So, that being said, Epix's Pennyworth series seemingly features an LGBTQ character. So there was a Pennyworth panel, and I think there was also a trailer, which I don't remember if I got or not. That came up with it, and it's not in this article.
All right, real quick, who has Epix on their cable channel? Well, it has a cable channel. Anybody? Bueller? You guys, Matt, do you have Epix? Yeah, I don't have Epix either, so I'm not sure how many people can be watching this.
Yeah, I mean, Epix is one of those. Is like if you have just above the tier of basic or something, I think you'll get it, like with stars or something. I think, but I don't know. I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah,
like, the Epix and stars are kind of similar. So
right, it depends on the package, obviously, that you
right.
have purchased with your cable. If you actually still have a cable package as opposed to just streaming.
Yeah, and my only problem with the Pennyworth thing is like they could have used the Gotham version of Anthem because he's kind of dope, like right. Sean Pertwee. Like I do love that version of Alfred. So, but obviously they wanted to go with the young version, and it is what it is. So who knows how that's going to turn out?
Right. All right. Next up, I always get these stories. Crisis on Infinite Earths. Brandon Routh is back and suits up as Superman once again.
Yeah, baby.
Played the Man of Steel in 2006's Superman Returns is coming back, and he's going to play, I think, the Kingdom Come version of Superman.
Yep, that's correct.
But of course, he's coming back playing a different character than he normally does in the DC TV universe, the CW universe.
Right, because he plays Adam on Legends of Tomorrow.
So way to be budget, CW. Way to be budget.
I mean, look, if you got a Superman on set, you might as well use him.
I'm just saying.
There's a great picture from Comic-Con from the lead actor in Krypton and Brandon Routh taking a picture, and it was from Instagram. It was awesome.
Okay. Yeah, I'm taking a picture with my grandson. Or something like that. Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty cool. Next up, holy crossover is Batman. Burt Ward signs on for CW's Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. I really hope he's Batman and not Robin. I don't want to see him in the tights.
Oh no!
I'm joking, but not like really.
Oh my gosh!
So, I mean, all signs point to probably him being Robin, but hey, it's Burt Ward. What you gonna do?
So speaking of the CW, they unveiled a slew of trailers for their DC TV shows, including trailers for Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, and Black Lightning during the network's Comic-Con presentation.
Yeah.
And they are online for people to peruse.
That is correct.
Is the Elite coming back to Supergirl?
I haven't. Were they on there?
You got me.
I'm like a couple of seasons out from that show.
Oh, no, Agent 70 and our buddy was a member of the Elite on Supergirl last season.
Okay. Not me.
Agent 70, Louis was the Hat.
Oh my God. Jesus. Make me go back and watch this stuff. All right. I didn't know.
6 degrees of Matt Wang over here.
I didn't know. I didn't know.
Now he's got to catch up on Supergirl.
He was on this season.
That's funny. All right. So anyway.
So next up, Sindhu Rahamurthy cast as Flash villain Bloodwork. Now, I'm not familiar with
what era of
Bloodwork, he's a recent villain from the recent run.
Okay, because I was about to say, and I'm not saying I'm up on the Flash's roster, but I'm like, that's a new one.
I think he premiered like 2 years ago in the comic.
Okay. So, so he'll be on This is the 6th season. Wow, time flies. Next up.
Yeah, speaking of actors playing multiple roles, Tom Cavanaugh from The Flash is going to play another classic DC character. And who's he playing?
Not in Wells this time, I think.
Where's
He's playing Pariah.
Pariah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So Tom Cavanaugh has played Reverse Flash and a couple of people and a bunch of Welleses from his characters. I'm surprised there's not a council of Welleses. If there isn't, I don't know. I'm not even caught up on Flash. I couldn't tell you. So now he's playing Pariah in the crossover, who will probably end up being a Wells. But apparently it says here he works for the Anime Monitor. So I don't know that much about him.
I mean, he really needs a job or something. Like, why is he playing?
He's pretty. Hey, you know what? He's been pretty good at the parts he's been playing. Like,
I love him on Flash as you know.
But it's kind of weird. It's like, wow, could they not have found someone else to do this one? But anyway, like, hey, look, you got a good character. Again, you got somebody on the bench. You might as well use them, right?
Mm-hmm. By the way, I did see. Sorry, speaking of Flash, I did see Dana. What's her last name?
Hannah Becker.
Yes, I saw her. She was having dinner in the same place I was having dinner.
Nice.
And, I was like looking. I was like, I know her. Oh, that's Killer Frost.
Yep. Flash Killer Frost is up in the building. That's right, because they did a thing there, didn't I guess? Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I think we had well, that was last week. We had something about that. But this time, The Flash will launch new storytelling format in season 6. So after 6 seasons, I guess they're trying something new with the way they do.
More power to them.
Yeah, I mean, keep it fresh. So apparently, it says instead of one season-long story arc, season 6 will be broken down into 2 chapters or graphic novels. Interesting. That features their own individual villains. First half will end in this year's 5-show crossover, and then pick up with a new story for the second half. Kind of feel like you've done that anyway. Like, or at least there are some shows have done that. Like, hey, this is a mid-series thing, and they kind of, stop at a place then and then pick up. But usually, I guess that's pick up with the same story, though. So, cool. Next up.
Oh my goodness! So some people, or someone with some extra money to burn, hired an airplane with Release the Snyder Cut banner to fly over San Diego Comic-Con on Friday morning. This past Friday morning. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Let it go, people. Let it go.
Yeah, somewhat $1,170 for the stunt. Like, I guess, more, again, as we said, more money than sense, but sure. Switching gears a little bit, Power Rangers original Red Ranger returns in new Beast Morphers trailer. So Jason, the Red Ranger, is going to be, which I think we talked about at one point of this possibly happening, being on the new version of Power Rangers Beast Morphers, and there's a trailer out there about it. So cool.
No wonder he was signing at near Comic-Con.
Right, and that was part of the speculation because and that the toy two-piece toy set of him was also shown, and there was speculation. It was like, yeah, they might have some all that might be connected. So it turns out it was. So.
All righty. Next up, good news for a friend of both myself and at Matt Wang 97. The Boys show on Amazon has already gotten an official second season renewal. So the show has recently premiered on Amazon Prime Video and has already been renewed for a second season. As a reminder, this is based on the comic series of the same name by Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson.
Anybody watching this?
I want to. I forgot that it was on. I saw the commercial.
It just started, so
yeah. I've keep seeing things from it, and I was like, I'm kind of curious. And there's some people on there that are kind of like, I was like, okay, I might give this a shot, but who knows?
Right. I was about to say, I'll just add that our mutual friend, shout out Dave Lefkowitz, is counseling me to read the source material. So I plan on tracking some of that stuff down just to give it give it a try. It's definitely not my usual. It wouldn't normally be on my reading list, but I'm interested to see where all this is coming from.
Gotcha. I will take the next two since they're connected, and that The Witcher will be a very adult, quote unquote, show with lots of monsters and no villain.
Okay.
And in that, there is also a trailer for said show, for Netflix's Witcher show that is out there, and you can go check it out. Who's starring another Superman, Henry Cavill, and there's there's going to be monsters and gratuitous nudity, no doubt, but probably no male parts, as people are speculating. But hey, if you like that video game, I assume the show's going to be all right. I don't know. Next.
By the way, just as a quick aside, I finally watched Mission Impossible Fallout.
Oh, nice.
With Henry Cavill, doing the fist reload bit. It comes early on in the film. It's actually pretty fun.
Yeah, I still need to get around to that one.
So it's definitely worth the watch, just for the kind of mindless fun. Getting back to the news.
That is a weird storyline. Anyway, story right there. But anyway, go ahead.
This one?
No, the one of the side ones.
Okay. Denai Guerrera has confirmed that she is leaving the Walking Dead show during season 10. That is the upcoming season 10. So she's been on it since season 3. So that's a pretty good run. And she's an accomplished actress. She's actually a writer and director. So she's going on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, I believe she's got some stuff on Broadway going on right now or something. I can't remember. But yeah.
Right, she's not just General Okoye. Even if she was just General Okoye, which would be pretty awesome, she definitely is. She's a multifaceted talent.
Yeah, she's got things on the burner.
Yep.
Speaking of Walking Dead, first, the Walking Dead movie teaser kickstarts Rick Grimes' next chapter. So yeah, we talked about this like probably a while back, in that after Andrew Lincoln left or was killed off, however you want to do it, there was going to be a couple of Walking Dead movies starring him, and I guess this is the teaser to the first one. So, here you go.
All right. Next up, Archer gets a season 11 renewal and a major plot twist at San Diego Comic-Con. So congratulations to Archer.
Yeah, I know, right? I haven't watched that show since season 5.
I know people that were really big fans of it. They love the humor. So
I was one of them, but like I said, season 5 came and I think I lost access to get to FX, which is probably part of the reason why I stopped watching it.
It happens.
Yeah, and they come on Netflix, but then a year, a season behind. So yeah.
Right.
Anywho, Russo Brothers announces Battle of the Planets feature film.
Yes.
I knew you had me on that one.
Yes.
I am curious though.
I hear this because I trust the Russos.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, but I'm also curious why not go directly to. I mean, granted, it's not that far off, but why not go directly to the source material in Science Ninja Team Gotcha Man? But hey, it is what it is.
I think they're similar to folks of a certain vintage like us.
I mean, yeah, they're definitely going for that whole late 70s, early 80s when it came on, and hopefully they'll leave 7 Sark 7 wherever it is.
No, 7 Sark 7 is going to be coming along. I have this distinct feeling that that's the vibe that they're going for, but obviously this is just,
or they'll at least allude to them some kind of way. Like
this is just conjecture on our part.
Yeah,
there's still a lot of time before this becomes reality, but it's just something that I was ecstatic to hear, and to hear that they're behind it, gives me a lot of hope.
Oh, I'm happy for it. It's just like I was just kind of a weird choice to go with that version and not the original. But hey, like I said, it's the Russos. At this point, I trust them. Next up,
Brent Spiner, Jerry Ryan, and Jonathan Frakes set to return for Star Trek Picard. So this was a big announcement.
Very looking forward to this. I know Matt is too.
Right. They announced this at the Star Trek Universe panel with the first trailer for the Picard show, and made everyone mad that it's on CBS Access, and obviously, really, piqued people's interest in the channel, because now you have a trailer showing Picard with with the hints of Brent Spiner's Data, Jerry Ryan's 7 of 9, and
Riker and Riker is going to be on there, and
right.
I think Hugh. Hugh. It seemed like it's going to make an appearance on there or something. So yeah, it's a celebration. Yeah,
it was. Listen, it was a big deal when that dropped. I know a lot of people, were really excited about that.
The panel's on YouTube, and it was awesome.
Oh, I might have to check that out then.
Cool.
Next up, speaking of Star Trek, Discovery. Here's how far the series is jumping forward. So apparently, Discovery is going to do a time jump, which it was already 10 years before TNG, something like that, I believe it was. So, according to this, they're going to make a 1,000-year leap into the future in the 3rd season. That's weird.
It's a long time.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Is there? Wait, that's Star Trek Online is on? No, I don't. It's not. No use of speculation. I'm trying to remember, because there's clearly a tie in there somewhere as to why that's going to be the case. But apparently, I feel like there's either it's going to be a Q snap, or they're going to just all get jumped to the future, because there's no way in the world they're all going to be alive in the future. So, and it's going to be the same cast. So
wormhole. But
clearly it's something, and a clearly Discovery.
That's a Star Trek. That's a Star Trek trope.
Yeah, it is. So anyway,
next up, Star Trek Lower Decks reveals first look at the show's characters. So this was also at the Star Trek Universe panel, and CBS unveiled the principal cast and the characters of the upcoming adult animated Star Trek Lower Decks. Okay. This is based on characters. This is a show where they're going to explore the characters who work on the lower levels of the USS Cerritos, one of the less important ships in Starfleet, in a series co-created by Rick and Morty writer Mike McMahon.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we talked about this before, and I'm like, I think that part was probably the part that I wasn't too crazy about. But hey, I'll check it out. And now we're going to start to get into the meaty stuff, because and I sent you the link, Matt. So if you watch it, look at the stuff on the other side, on the other page, on the second page, that's going to get to the meat of this whole shebang. And we're going to start off with DuckTales surprises Comic-Con with damn autoplaying.
With an autoplay advertisement.
I hate that. DuckTales surprises Comic-Con with Rescue Rangers, Daisy Duck, and Lin-Manuel Miranda. Which that last part we already knew, because he was playing Gizmo Duck, but I guess he made it to the panel or something.
Right. It was a surprise that he made it to the panel.
Right.
Because my understanding from the pictures I saw is that he came on as a surprise.
Right. So that wasn't the only surprise, in that apparently the rest of the Disney afternoon is going to make an appearance on DuckTales, which kind of leads me to believe that maybe they're going to reboot some of the stuff on Disney Plus. And that this was the vehicle for them to do that, by just kind of saying, hey, these folks are still in the universe, and these other shows are now connected in a way they kind of certain weren't back in the day. So yeah, Daisy Duck's going to join DuckTales, and you can see they have a character sheet, and Chip and Dale's going to be on there, and the rest of the Rescue Rangers also. Because I read this and I thought they left out a name, which I think they did. The little fly thing, I can't remember whose name, I can't remember right off the bat, was not mentioned, but whatever. A grown-up Kit and Molly from Tailspin, Gosling from Darkwing Duck, which we already knew Darkwing Duck has already been established on the show. So yeah, pretty much the majority of the Disney afternoon. Oh yeah, and Goofy is apparently set to make an appearance on the show. So I'm sure there were thousands and millions of people screaming about that bit of news. Next up,
start showing.
So what?
When do the new episodes start
airing? You know what? I don't know, and I'm not sure if this article says as much. Yeah, it doesn't really say. I'm not really sure though.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I need to catch up on that because from what I've seen so far, it's been pretty good.
It's really season 2 is even better than season 1.
Oh, really? Yeah, I heard that there was a lot of callbacks in season 2. So
the Darkwing Duck episode. Oh my god, it'll blow your mind.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely have to catch up on that. So next up,
Disney XD's Spider-Man television show is delving into superior Spider-Man territory in the first trailer that was released for the second half of season 2, which debuts this September.
Which one was weird that it's season 2, and 2 is weird that the show's still on. I'm not sure why, but
they've rebooted it a couple of times.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, every time they follow a new direction, they reboot that Spider-Man show.
Right, kind of like they did with the Avengers show.
Right.
So there you go, Superior Spider-Man. There's a clip in there that I'm actually slightly curious as to how they did that. I'm like, okay, because knowing what we know about what happens in Superior Spider or how Superior Spider-Man happens,
right?
You know, I can't imagine they went down fully that route. Anyway, now, folks, Kevin Feige confirms complete Phase 4 was revealed, and this happened at San Diego Comic-Con. And many a nerdgasm happened during the course of this.
Yeah, they basically monopolized the internet like all Saturday afternoon and evening with these announcements.
Right. So I got 2 articles I'm going off of here because one of them is just a wall of text, and the other one's got pictures and whatnot. So here's the lineup. Black Widow, first off, Black Widow, the Eternals, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Doctor Strange, and the Multiverse of Madness, and Thor: Love and Thunder. Those are the movies that are coming out in Phase 4. And along with that are the Disney Plus shows, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Wait, did I say the Eternals? Well, yeah, I think I did. Anyway, WandaVision, which all these are shows that we knew about, but there's just a lot more information. Loki, What If, and Hawkeye, which Hawkeye probably was the one that we did not really know about, but was kind of rumored. And along with all of these were, oh wait, hold on, there's one missing out of this. Blade, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting a new Blade movie, although that is not in Phase 4.
Right, that's why exactly. That's why you didn't have it listed in that Phase 4 lineup.
Right, but it was announced nonetheless. And we are, like I said, we're getting a new Blade, and Mahershala Ali is going to be playing Blade, which is probably the best casting you could have done at this point. So I am definitely looking forward to that, and we got a little bit more news on that in a little bit. So yeah, and we got, like I said, with all the announcements, and we got like I said, the dates to come along with that, and casting announcements, or at least the cast that we know of so far in all of these movies, including the Eternals, to go along with this. So thoughts, fellas?
Wow. Just very quickly, at least, you know, they're selling the interconnectivity of the Disney Plus shows with the movies, because they did tease that certain things would be leading into the movies, such as the WandaVision show would be a lead-in to the Doctor Strange movie. Specifically, whatchamacallit, what was it? Was there another connection? The Loki show, I think, would lead into the Thor.
Right.
That's it.
Yes. And some of these shows are coming off of like I think WandaVision's coming off of Endgame. Falcon and Winter Soldier is
right
because of the end of Endgame. And shows tie into the movies are not that, you know, not unsurprising because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did it for the last, what, 5-6 seasons, whatever the case may be. So that's not unheard of.
Right, but this is a lot stronger because
Exactly.
they are all being operated. They're all operated under the same Marvel Studios banner now.
Mhm.
So it's going to be a lot more. It's going to be more interconnected. It's going to be the word I'm searching for is they're just going to be better. They're all connected, but coordinated. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you very much. They're going to be better coordinated moving forward.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't want to, in the interest of time, I'm not going to read in all these names, but and I've already said Mahershala Ali's playing Blade. We're going to get a grown-up Monica Rambeau. I believe
they got Gilgamesh.
Yeah, that's a. Well, I was going to say thanks for bringing up the grown-up Monica Rambeau and showing up in a weird place, showing up in that WandaVision show.
Right.
So not where I thought they would introduce her, but it might be a way of empowering her.
Maybe,
how she gains her powers.
Yeah,
so right. So that's not, it's not the craziest idea in the world. That's what I thought of when that was announced. Shout out to Kumail Nanjiani again. I know that wasn't a surprise, but shout out to him.
All of the most of the cast of the Eternals were pretty much known, with the exception of probably Gilgamesh. And I think Brian Tyree Henry as Phastos, that was another one that wasn't known. I know we know how Salma Hayek was, and the casting for Sprite, Leah McHugh, I guess.
Right.
I'm not sure if that one was.
Right. And shout out to what is his name? It's already escaped my mind.
Our boy Shang-Chi.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes. So let's get to that real quick. Yeah. So we got the actor that's playing Shang-Chi in the Shang-Chi movie. We're also given the title of the name. He's going up against the Mandarin, which we've already seen in the universe, but probably not the same.
Tony, if you're if you're an Asian of a certain vintage, I mean,
or even if you're not, if you
watch that era of
exactly. Oh my God, I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, if you watch that era of movie, like
Internal Affairs.
Exactly. If
that's the one actually I still need to watch, but
that's what the Jack Nicholson Leonardo DiCaprio movie.
So Simu Liu was cast as Shang-Chi, and he got this. And I don't think Roddykat put the story on our list, but he literally spoke this into the air, into the world, into the
right. No, I don't have that.
And it happened. He literally trolled Marvel for this role and got his name on the list. And obviously, he's pre-qualified by being an actor, one, and a martial artist and fit person, two. So, he was going to be on the short list.
Right. Basically,
he got it made by literally speaking it into the air.
Right. There was a tweet out here saying, hey, basically him saying, hey, Marvel, we're going to talk. And then I think he retweeted again saying, thanks for getting back to me. And when this was announced.
Right.
Matter of fact, I think it was similar, and I don't think I have this in the lineup, or maybe I do. Similar to the way Mahershala Ali got Blade. So you basically
it's different because my understanding is that Mahershala Ali called up Kevin Feige meeting, and he said, I want to play Blade, and they were like, okay.
Well, yeah, basically. But I mean,
I think
he basically did something.
He had his Oscars over his shoulder when it happened.
Hey, me, Cottonmouth, and all and there's other stuff I did that I just won awards for. Yeah, what up?
It's just a little different.
I mean, you're right, but still, like I said, basically, hey, they put it out there and they got it. So, let's see. So there's that. Then let's see the Shang-Chi stuff. There's there's Doctor Strange movie, which apparently Scarlet Witch is going to be in there. So, as we said, there's a tie there. There's the animated anthology What If series, which Jeffrey White's going to be the Watcher. So cool. Right. And there's a whole big cast list, which is another article I'll put in about that. There's the Hawkeye show, which is going to be Jerry Renner. A lot of people are not too happy about that. I'm not sure how to feel about that, even though I love Hawkeye.
Kate Bishop. That's all you need to know.
Why are they
Exactly. And then that was the part I was going to get to. The best we're going to get out of that.
Why are people unhappy? They don't like Hawkeye because he's a human dude that shoots arrows?
Well, there's that, and I don't think they don't like Jerry Renner. And well, there was also, I know there was some hubbub about when he in Endgame when he was going around shooting people of color, and so yeah, there was a lot of that nowadays. So, like, here's my thing about that. Like, it's like Hawkeye is a character I love, and when he showed up in Thor, for that brief moment, I was like, okay, they kind of got him. They kind of got him, and then it kind of went nowhere. Through the whole process, and that's kind of my thing. But at the same time, whatever. And I don't know.
I would add that the character. Yeah, I would add that the character's a little complicated. In the MCU universe, because he's a cross between the Marvel Comics and the Ultimate Comics version. So there's so I honestly think they weren't 100% sure how to tell more of his story. So I think the TV show is a perfect vehicle for.
I don't know. I feel like that's a Budapest thing, Budapest problem. And at the same, and actually, hell, they could go back. So here was another one I was thinking of today. Not to go too far into this, but if they hadn't done what they did with Mockingbird on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they could have totally done like his first or second miniseries where they met.
Yeah.
So there is stuff out there they could do, and he ties with Black Widow's obviously parents, so he's probably going to be in that movie, which we found out a little bit more on. So
would it be out of the question that they bring Mockingbird into this Hawkeye series?
Who's to say? They should.
It's not out of the question yet. I mean, it would be funny. It's funny that they didn't tease that up front, but I think it's better that they tease Kate Bishop because people have been asking for that.
And that's why the reason I don't think they're going to do Mockingbird though, because this is probably, and if they go the lawns of Fraction series, all the better.
Right.
But but that's the reason why I don't think they're going to do.
Maybe they bring her in as an old flame or an old agent team up. We'll see.
That'd be nice. Plus she's on the Orville now, so I don't know if she's going anywhere anytime soon. Unless they recast her, which I hope they did, because she was pretty dope in that part. And let's see, what is it? Like I said, so there was that Thor, Love and Thunder. So the fourth Thor movie, Taika Waititi is back to return. We already said that last week. And the big thing off of this is that Jane Foster, Natalie Portman will lift Mjolnir as the mighty Thor. It says here the female Thor, but that's okay. We got something on that in a minute. So, which led me to question, and somebody else asked this on Twitter. I'm like, does she actually really want to do that? I mean, I guess she signed on to it, so yeah, but I don't know. She didn't seem too keen on it after all the stuff she said after, Dark World. Didn't seem like she would really want to come back to the role.
I think a lot of that had to do with Patty Jenkins being removed from the director seat in Thor: Dark World. I think a lot of it had to do with the direction of that movie, to be honest. So I'm not surprised that she's willing to jump back on the bandwagon now that she knows that it's super successful. And that there's a story where she's going to be playing more of a lead role. So I think that is, more than anything, is what convinced her to join. I was thinking about this, and we had a discussion about this over the last couple of shows about mainstream actors that still haven't joined into the MCU or even the DCEU or even the X-Men universe. There's still a decent chunk left that, even though we look at the cast list for Endgame and it's just this gigantic list of actors that you recognize from all over the place. But there's still plenty of people out there who are just like, I don't want to do a superhero thing. But they convinced her to come back because now it's good. And like I said, they have a role for her that she's going to be playing front and center.
But think about it. Gwendolyn Christie as Mighty Thor. How good would that have been? Think about it.
But it doesn't fit the character.
Yes, it does. Come on, stop it.
No, it doesn't, because Jane Foster was never that imposing. Well, you can laugh all you want, but
they couldn't make those changes. Oh well, okay. Let's put it this way. How about this? Natalie Portman still plays Jane Foster, and then she switches over into Gwendolyn Christie playing Thor.
It's an option. It's an option, but that's my point. You know, like that's not out of the realm of possibility. But at the end of the day, it'd be nice to see Gwendolyn Christie playing a role in any Marvel movie. It doesn't necessarily have to be the mighty Thor. So
anyway, so to close this out, because we still got a bunch to do. It's a Black Widow movie. That's still a thing. Red Guardian was announced. Was it Red Guardian? Somebody else, I think. Yeah, Dave Harbour is going to be Alexei, aka Red Guardian, and somebody else. I think they announced. I can't remember, but it doesn't matter at this point. But that movie's still going on, and I think from what I hear, it sounds like Budapest is going to come up.
Yeah, it seems like they've teased the casting of the Taskmaster as well.
Yes, that was it. Thank you, but they don't have it in this article.
Right, they've there's a tease of a character called the Iron Maiden. That's the Melina character. I think that Rachel Weisz is going to be playing. So that seems, it seems like that movie's starting to come together. So and there's going to be plenty of characters for the Widow to play off of. Yeah.
So there we go. And so we pretty much did all of that. Next up, Falcon and Winter Soldier's Anthony Mackie has worn the suit. Apparently,
no surprise that they're in production already.
Yeah, well, it says filming is set to begin until October, but they've already started doing some things on it. So there you go. There's that. Next up,
Falcon and Winter Soldier. So we got a first look during the panel of a message that Daniel Bruhl's Zemo character sent to the attendees and the Falcon and Winter Soldier, and it hints at Zemo adopting the purple mask, the purple hooded mask of the Baron Zemo we all know and love. So,
but will it stick?
Well, we'll see. We'll see, but it's pretty cool that they're going to be using that.
Yeah. Let's see. We kind of just talked about this, except for we know Jeffrey Wright's doing the voice of the Watcher in the What If animated series, and apparently there's a bunch of other castings that they and things that they're going to do with that, including like Agent Carter and a bunch of people from that series is going to do voices on that, and a bunch of other people.
And Taserface is coming back because the dude from This Is Us, I think his name is Chris Sullivan, is on the list. And I'm like, wait, that's the dude from This Is Us. What does he do again? And I looked it up, and it's Taserface. So he's going to be on one of these What If animated shorts. That's going to be pretty cool.
Taserface. Oh, God. Anywho. So yes, Tessa Thompkins Valkyrie will get LGBTQ relationship in Thor: Love and Thunder. I believe she was asked in an interview and basically said yeah, and she also said that, or at least on a tweet or something, she's like a king needs a queen or something like that. In a tweet or something.
That's going to be right. That's going to be what her quest is, that she's got to find. That's what she mentioned. The first thing she's got to do is find a queen. So. That's pretty interesting that this was the reveal that I think Kevin Feige had in mind.
Yes.
When he said we already have one, and for fans of the comics, she was on the short list.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That character was on the short list of characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe who would have been revealed as such. So, congrats to the character, and congrats to them for their progressive stance. So.
Yeah, and there was also a rumor that a lot of that stance came after Feige got power from Ike. Stuff. So
pretty much
that.
Yeah. So next up, next up, this is the follow up to that bit that we spoke about earlier. Taika Waititi confirms that Natalie Portman is the mighty Thor, not female Thor, because female Thor is silly. I think what we jokingly called her was Chick Thor, which is even worse. But I definitely take responsibility for that. I do. You can't, send all hate mail to @age_70 on Twitter.
Hey, we know better. We do better. So
but yeah, what's cool is that he's literally calling her the Mighty Thor, which was the name of the title of her book.
Exactly, and what they're going to be seemingly going off of, which made Jason Eric ecstatic, obviously for multiples of reasons. Jeff Goldblum teases MCU return for Thor: Love and Thunder. So the Grandmaster is supposedly coming back, I guess, because I guess he tweeted out. Wait, why is the thing not showing? Weird. The tweet was showing earlier, but
there it is.
No, that's not it. That was not the actual tweet.
Okay.
So I think Jeff Goldblum had tweeted that basically had the logo and had and not forgetting Grandmaster underneath it when he tweeted that out, and so it was funny, but I can't find a tweet on that. So
that's one of those situations where it's nice that they didn't kill off the bad guy.
Right.
It's nice that they can actually bring some of them back.
Yeah, in one of the few instances that they've done that.
Yeah. Next up, Wesley Snipes congratulates Mahershala Ali after Marvel announced the Blade reboot at Comic-Con. So Wesley Snipes posted this online. I definitely saw, I think it was a Twitter post.
It was a tweet, from Snipes from like, yeah, y'all chillax and it's all good. And he basically went on to say, I want to thank my brother Mahershala Ali and show it's nobody does. He said,
right.
Salam.
All right. So if you thought you saw a decent number of Blade cosplays around various Comic-Cons, you're going to see a lot more now.
Yeah. Wonder what happened to that Blade's daughter thing. Guess we'll never know. But anyway, moving forward, why didn't Marvel announce the next Spider-Man movie at Comic-Con 2019? Now, it is probably more obvious to us than some people who were ever asking this, and that's because it's Sony property. I mean, it's Sony's license, so that's why.
It'll come eventually.
Yep.
So, but speaking of Marvel's next phase, the studio seems to already know its Phase 5 slate and its next crossover event, but did not announce it at Comic-Con, probably because there's a lot, too much to talk about. Feige actually spoke to MTV News after the Hall H presentation and answered a question about the lack of an Avengers team in film and confirmed that all this stuff is in the works for Phase 5 and beyond.
Right, and as we already said, Blade seems to be at the beginning of, or at least somewhere near the beginning of Phase 5. And there were some rumors going about, like shortly after this article came out, that the next crossover is possibly going to be Annihilation, which also linked to why it's coming back to the comic books again. So so whether that pans out or not, which just makes sense because where else are you gonna go but up, right? So Annihilation was probably in the long line. I mean, they could do some Secret Empire, and I'm sure that's good, but they could do. We talked about it before. They could do Secret Empire, but some of that's kind of screwed.
I mean, they've already teased the Kree Skrull.
Not Secret Empire, but Secret Invasion.
They've done some Secret Empire, right? And
well, they kind of did, but I mean, Secret Invasion.
Right, in terms of cosmic, they could do the Kree Skrull War, but if they wanted to do like universe-spanning stuff, it'd be hard. They'd be hard pressed to find a better story than Annihilation.
Yep. With all the properties kind of in house again, you got them. The pieces are in place.
Yep.
Dark Phoenix gets a new title for home release. That's really not else to be said about that. Didn't do that great. Didn't do that great in the box office, which I feel is kind of on the line of X-Men movies at this point.
Right, but I think it was also influenced by the fact that a lot of people are like, you know what, Disney owns Fox, Disney has Marvel has its characters back. I don't think anyone really took that movie very seriously, at least from my perspective.
Right, which would make sense because this was the last one that was strictly Fox before all that went down. So, or in the midst of all that going down, I should say. Yep. So, but again,
I got the next story.
Yep.
So, all of the pettiness paid off, ladies and gentlemen. Avengers Endgame officially beats Avatar as the highest grossing movie of all time.
He's been like this for months, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all know if y'all been watching or listening.
Yes, it's petty. Yes, it's petty. And as Roddykat is wont to say, all the money's going to the same place. I disagreed with that at the time because the money went to Fox first, well before the merger. But now it's nice to see on boxofficemojo.com, not an endorsement, but shout out to them for keeping track. It's nice to see Endgame in that slot for all time.
Yeah, there was a tweet from Chris Ebola that was also kind of amusing on the other side of this, because somebody else had kind of tweeted something like that, and he was like, basically this is like, I don't know, you're not getting it. Somebody's real happy for somebody who's not getting any of the money from this, and I'm like, that's true, but at the same time,
right?
Let them be happy, shoot.
Exactly. It's just, you know what? It's petty, but you know what? I'm down with the petty.
Yeah. So there is that. And on that note, Karen Gillan perfectly sums up the Avengers Endgame beating Avatar at the box office by saying a sentence I'll likely never say again in my life. Our film has become the biggest film in cinematic goddamn history. That's a tweet. So.
Yep. As another follow-up, the Russo brothers sent a thank you to James Cameron following Endgame taking over the box office all-time lead. So
yeah, and I believe he in turn, congratulated them.
Yep.
At the same time, so it is until he gets that bug onto him again. Next up, speaking of bugs, Spider-Man: Far From Home is now the highest-grossing Spidey movie, as it nears $1 billion online worldwide. Worldwide.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, it's not, it seems cheap to say that it was piggybacking off of Endgame, but at the end of the day, I think of everyone who may have hesitated to see this over that long holiday weekend heard positive word of mouth, and I think people went to see it after. So that's reason. That's definitely one reason for some box office longevity.
Right, and I'm pretty sure, like you kind of alluded to, that first week probably gave it, a nice big lead, because normally, movies come out on a Thursday, officially on a Friday, and you got that whole weekend. Well, this had at least 2-3 other days.
Right, but as people want to do, a lot of people go on vacation and go out of town, so they may not get to the theaters, but
unless they go out of town.
Right, but I think the positive word of mouth helped, keep the train moving on that.
Mm-hmm. And as we keep this train moving, She-Ra's SDCC panel revealed Adora's true origins and how they nabbed Gina Davis. So apparently Gina Davis is doing a voice on the show.
Okay.
So cool. Next up.
All right, this is actually good news for me. Every episode of Robotech is now available to stream for free because I have barely watched any of it.
Yeah,
alongside a bunch of special features.
Yeah, so this was is Harmony Gold who put this, who has the license for it, which is kind of sad because their version was this, or at least the last version I remember seeing was not great as far as translations go. But hey, they got the things. But anyway, the original distributor of the series, being them, has announced a partnership with FilmRise, which is a streaming service I have not heard of. Let's see. All of Robotech, including 11 hours of bonus features, are hitting streaming platforms, including Vudu for free with commercials, obviously.
Right.
I think, where does it say? Yeah. So see, on FilmRise streaming service, Roku channel, or Vudu, which is all free, like I said, with things. So if you haven't checked out Robotech, good luck. I mean, it's kind of hard to get into at first, but hey, run with it.
Right, and there was a time when, and people have to remember that there was a time, people of a certain vintage will remember that there was a time when a lot of this stuff just was not that available.
Yep. And
in recent years, obviously, let's say within the last decade, and even within the last 5 years, when streaming has become the main avenue for distribution of anime. Everything is at everyone's beck and call at your fingertips. This was not always the case. So having the ability to go back, to these older series is a boon, is a godsend for a lot of us who missed out on this when we were younger.
And this kind of blew my mind when I was a kid, when it was, because it was serialized.
Right.
It was an episode. It was, you had to watch it in order, or you didn't know what was going on.
Right. So hey, look, it's all there, it's all together, and don't think that they did anything else to it outside of just put it out. So it is. So, but yeah, hey, it's worth watching. For at the very least the historic stuff of it.
All right, so we're going to transition to comic news now.
We very much are. And again, another 2-pager. So we're going to try to blow through some of this real kind of quick. DC Universe Online is coming to the Switch on August 6th, 2019. So DCU is basically the DC Universe MMO. It's a more strict MMO like unlike Marvel Heroes was, and it is what it is. The less I say about it, but it's better. It's pretty bland, but they got a lot of content in it. So.
All right. Speaking of Transformers, it's kind of fitting that I played that particular transition.
And it's also fitting that Matt's still here.
So 3 of the most obscure Transformers have been modernized for 2019. So these are the Firecons. I don't remember these. These were released in 1988, and they were little robots that turned into spark-spitting monsters.
Yeah,
21 years later, they're making a comeback.
So yeah, this is for the Transformers trading card game, which I've talked about before, and I know Matt's also a fan of, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. So this is a new thing that are coming out. They've been supporting this thing pretty decently. I'm happy for that, but it's Wizards of the Coast, so they're gonna do their thing.
Yeah, and I'm good friends with the guy who runs this Transformers CCG, and we're as fans, we're in good hands.
It's great to know.
Okay. That being said, I know it's getting late, Matt. I don't know. You said you might want to.
No, unfortunately, I do have to turn to a pumpkin. So,
I was about to say, we're running. We've got a lot of news to roll through. I'll be passing out by the time we end this.
Maybe some predictions to all of this.
Thank you guys for having me on, and just want to say hello to all your fans out there, and I'll watch the rest of this tomorrow.
You got it, man.
We have to have you again when less is going on and you've caught up on some books.
I will, definitely will. Just let me know when.
No problem.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, Ken. Take it easy. Peace.
Yeah, I saw him kind of fading out. So I was
I'm just like, it's late. Like I'm usually dying right now. I'm just like,
yeah. So hopefully we'll get past a lot of this real quick. So the coolest Star Wars and Marvel, actually probably should have kept on for this one, but no, it's fine. The coolest Star Wars and Marvel reveals were brought to Comic-Con. So yeah, there was a bunch of Legend stuff, which I know Agent 7 has been on top of this and has been second on this. But yeah, there's a lot of Star Wars stuff and Marvel Legends figures and Star Wars figures that was announced and shown at the show.
Yeah, there's a lot of new figures out. Hasbro has picked up their game. They're obviously taking advantage of the renewed focus on X-Men. In the Marvel Legends line, there's still obviously dealing with the movie stuff. It's just there's a lot of stuff out there. And in terms of the Star Wars stuff, as always, there's a renewed focus on the Black series, but also just increasing the diversity of the lineup as well.
Mm-hmm. And apparently they got a new one. So these are if you're watching the video, I'm kind of going through the picture show, the slideshow of some of the stuff. They have a set of Star Wars figures from the Galaxy of Ventures animated series, and then there's some other stuff. And then like 87 said, there's the Black series Boba Fett helmet, and then they have a new set that apparently they're working on called Hyperreal. And if you're watching the video, you can see the the hyper-real Bespin Luke Skywalker figure, which is pretty good looking, actually. And lifelike the movie.
Yeah, I was about to say, in terms of price, that's got to be less than Hot Toys, but it's going to be on the higher side.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. So so apparently this camp was at Toy Fair earlier this year. So this is not exactly new. We announced another big scale line, Hyperreal, an 8-inch scaled range of figures that utilizes an internal armature, deluxe fabrication, and costuming techniques with a host of extra accessories. So yeah, this is probably going to be pricey.
Yep.
Oh wait, it says here the younger Skywalker isn't set for release until autumn 2020, but he'll cost $80.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's not I was about to say it's not Hot Toys, but it's definitely on the expensive side.
Right. It's a little more. Yeah, it's a little more than the. And I know there's a Darth Vader one, which I know there's a article about that is coming now, but we can kind of whatever. But yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff, including Brothor figure. Then there's a couple of figures. There was a Cosmic Ghost Rider and a Squirrel Girl on a moped rather, which I know the Agent 70 is down for.
Yeah. It's a great rendition of the character. Anyone who's following me on social media would have seen my justification for getting a Squirrel Girl figure.
Yes, and that, like I said, that Cosmic Ghost Rider figure kind of looks all right.
That's insane. That thing is gigantic. The motorcycle.
Yeah.
Those motorcycles, the full size motorcycles, are not small. I own the first Ghost Rider that they put out and the Black Widow bike. Those are not small. That Cosmic Ghost Rider thing looks gigantic.
Yeah, that's some shelf space. A little bit of shelf space being taken. So,
and especially if you're doing it, so that you can see the full view of the bike. So,
also, and probably good. I think so. I meant to ask you about this. The Shang-Chi figure that was announced.
Right. This is a preview, so we don't have a final design yet.
Exactly. Wait, does he have a figure already? Or no?
No.
So this is the first one.
Yep.
And then we got Velocity. I think that's Velocity Suit Spider-Man and a couple other Spider-Man figures.
It's nice to get a classic Marvel Universe, not Ultimate Vulture figure.
Right. Which is there you go right there. And of course there's Morph.
Like I said, renewed focus on the X-Men.
Yeah, and of course, other versions of the X-Men, including, well, it's not here, but there's the Deadpool set, multi-packs. Here we go, the 90s X-Men set, which is has a set with Jean, Wolverine, and Scott.
Yeah, it's the only way you can get that 90s Jim Lee costume for Jean Grey. She's got an alternate head, and it's kind of cool that they have a Cyclops there with the jacket on as well. It's a different version.
And there's the Havoc and Polaris set, because obviously they go together.
Shout out to Peter David and Larry Stroman.
And yeah, that's it. Like I said, the Deadpool and Hit Monkey set.
That one came out of left field.
Yeah, you figured there was going to be another Deadpool set or something. Yeah, but definitely the Hit Monkey one was like, huh?
Yep.
All right. So, and there's the Giant Man from Captain America Civil War and some other stuff.
Yeah, they're reissuing. I was about to say they're reissuing. Just very quickly, they're reissuing some of the Build-A-Figures.
Yeah.
As individuals, so that's pretty cool because some of those are pretty hard to get. They were, not as easy to put together, especially if you did not buy a set. So it's nice that they're giving people a chance to buy a Giant Man and a Juggernaut as well.
And there's the Dr. Doom figure.
Oh, that Doom is awesome.
That Doom does look good. So, and also Savage She-Hulk figure, which I don't believe she's had one before.
Not this version.
Yeah.
There was a regular She-Hulk figure as part of the A-Force box.
Oh, right. I have that actually. Strong Guy.
This is a pretty impressive Build-A-Figure. That's just an impressive looking figure.
That's not bad. Punisher.
I gotta take a look at that little alternate head. I don't know if that's supposed to be the mask.
I don't know. It looks like some face paint.
Right, it's hard to tell. If it was the mask, like that cloth mask from the Mr. Rod's design, that would be pretty awesome.
Right. Deathlock.
Right, from the X-Force.
Mm-hmm. Danny Moonstar.
And the cool thing about this is that if you buy 3 of them, you get 3 characters because it comes with alternate heads for Wolfsbane and Karma.
Right. That's kind of weird, but I get it, I guess. So, I don't know. But yeah, so that's pretty much that on that line. So a whole bunch of stuff coming down on that one. So now we're getting some actual comic book stuff, and although there is some store stuff still coming. Hickman Cypher may reveal titles for the new X-Men line. So apparently, a lot of stuff came out of it. Oh, I should also point out before we go any further, solicits for October 2019 for DC Comics and Marvel Comics have come out. So therefore, some of this news is going to be from that.
Right.
That being said, this came out of San Diego with from the Next Big Thing panel, and apparently, after that panel, as it says here, X-Men Twitter has cracked the case, and whatever cipher that was put out, which I'm guessing those letters.
Yeah, it was like a 1-to-1. Yeah, I read this. It was like a pretty straightforward 1-to-1 code. So
right. So X-Men, Marauders, Excalibur, X-Force, New Mutants, Fallen Angels is that what it said. And guess what, folks? We are getting new X-Men, New Mutants titles, Excalibur, Marauders, coming with Dawn of X. So yeah, so a bunch of X books that are coming this fall. I'm kind of excited for that Excalibur one, even though it's not the classic team. The Marauders one seems interesting because that seems like something that's out of an Elseworlds, or multiversal thing. Fallen Angels, that's an interesting one to come back.
Right.
So yeah, so I don't know. That's just, and I don't even know. Let me see.
What's interesting is that they're using some of these titles that carry negative connotations. So it will be, I'm curious to see how that will affect sales. Maybe even initial ordering. So it's
like Marauders.
Right. It definitely carries a negative connotation.
Yeah, like that one was kind of a weird one, and it has nothing to do with that. With
the concept of the Marauders.
Right.
So it's we'll see how that goes with the ongoing with the ongoing stories that they're going to tell. So
yeah, apparently this is the Marauders in the most nautical, aka pirate sense, according to what Solicit says.
Right.
Because when I read that and I didn't think about it, it was like, wait, Captain Kate Pryde, what the heck? And then I thought about it for a second. I was like, oh wait, and then the crew, that's so clearly there's going to be something that's going on. From coming out of House of X, Powers of X, that's going to Secret Wars, this whole thing.
We will see.
Definitely. So yeah, so that's all of that. So new X books. I know Tim is happy as a clam.
Yeah.
New Mutants coming back, because especially after Rosenberg's run, which we kind of figured would have happened. We just didn't know how or when. So that was already answered, so we can get past that. So you take this next one.
Yes. Face It Tiger, you're getting an amazing Mary Jane ongoing. So this is hot off the heels of Mary Jane coming back into the spotlight in the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 25. There's a new story, a new series that's been announced that's going to follow her exploits, written by Leah Williams and art by Carlos Gomez.
Not to be confused with that series she had in 2004-2005, which was basically her in high school.
Right, that's vastly different.
Yes, what it seems like. So that should be interesting. Marvel going back into the Spider-Verse with new title. So yeah, announced Friday during the Spider-Man panel at Comic-Con. Spider-Verse will be drawn by a host of artists, including Juan Figueri, Art Adams, Stuart Eminem, and Stacey Lee. So those are some names. In addition to that, Into the Spider-Verse character designer Wendell Dallatt will be drawing covers for the book. And apparently this is being centered around Miles. And it says Miles Morales finally feels like he gets this Spider-Man stuff, and then he falls to a portal, which I guess he kind of sort of just did, but not necessarily knowing if that. I don't think that has anything to do with that. But isn't the web of life and destiny destroyed? Reads Marvel's description. Maybe not true believer, but who spun this new web? So I guess there's.
We'll see. It's the next step in that story.
Right. It said, it's going to be written by Jed McKay, and it's a 6-issue series.
Nice.
So milking that into the Spider-Verse money. Next up,
in the category of timely by accident, Marvel's returning to 2099 in a big way. Believe it or not.
I see what you did there with the timely, by the way.
Yeah, because it's double. There's a couple of facets to that little spin, a couple of plugs in there. Because I don't know if you have a story on this, but it came out that at a writer's retreat, I think it was Slott. I'm not sure if it was Slott. I think it was Slott who came out and said at the writer's retreat where they discussed this stuff that's coming up in October. He said that it's the 80th anniversary of Marvel, but 80 years from now is 2099, and everyone like everyone's jaw drops.
Right. Like you couldn't have did that intentionally if you tried. Yep. So no, I don't have that.
I mean, I see the advertisement, but that literally came up in the meeting, and that's where that whole idea came from.
Right. So there you go, folks. So this is why 2099, which we already know, Miguel is back in the present due to recent Spider-Man 25. So where that's gonna go, who knows? Are they bringing back the 2099 line? Who knows?
Well, at the very least, they have to, they'll bring it in as part of the anniversary celebration. So that's at the very least, that's what they should do.
Right. And the whole, and it says what, 1939? I wonder if they're going to do something on that part, because I don't think they have a timeline for that. But it is what it is. We'll find out.
Early Captain America.
I know, right? It's like, or maybe they'll gin up some. Hey, there was a Spider-Man back at that time, and no one knows about him.
Yeah, I mean, Captain America came a couple of years later, but still.
Right. So next up, Miracle Man to appear in Marvel Comics 1000 by Gaiman and Buckingham.
Wow.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it doesn't really. I mean, for those of us who didn't grow up reading this character, it doesn't mean much, but it's still, it's still impressive because they did purchase the character, but they're not 100% sure what to do with it.
Actually, wait, didn't Gaiman give them this character, or was it Angela and them? I can't remember. He gave them a set of characters, I think, but
well, they obtained the character.
Yeah. So yeah, there was that. Oh yeah, you know what? Going back to that Marvel history thing, because this article kind of touches on it. Obviously, there's not going to be any Star Wars related to the Marvel history in that facet, but they haven't mentioned Conan and that whole thing. Which, I mean, obviously, I don't think there's not that much reason why they would at this point. But you would think they were still going through the early days and might mention like, "Hey, this was going on in here," but doesn't go back into play until sometime later. Anyway,
there's a new Doctor Doom ongoing that was announced from Halt and Catch Fire creator Christopher Cantwell and artist Sal LaRocca. Shout out to Sal LaRocca.
Yeah, so the art's gonna be banging. Yep. So here's a little tidbit about this that kind of messed with me for a second. Christopher Cantrell.
Oh, is it Cantrell? Oh, I'm sorry.
Cantwell. Cantwell. Yeah. So there is. I did a Google search thinking I was going to come across this person who did Halt and Catch Fire and a couple other shows or whatever. Apparently, there is another person by that same name who's a neo-Nazi.
Okay.
And I thought, I think the Wikipedia also kind of mentions Halt and Catch Fire on his Wikipedia, so that might be a thing on that part. But they don't look, because So here's the IMDb for this.
Because they're different people.
Right. And that other person is actually, this weirdly enough, he looks like a SNL dude. I can't remember his name. I can't remember right now. But yeah, so this is the dude that's doing the if you're watching the video, that is doing the book. Which again, hey, you know, be a writer in Hollywood. You can get your comic book. But anyway, and not the neo-Nazi, just in case you happen to do that search like I did. Because that's not a that's
make sure you follow the right people, boys and girls.
So, but anyway, so yeah, there's a Doctor Doom ongoing happening, and he's not taking Iron Man's place this time. And we don't know the date of it, but we just know it's coming. Next up
is you.
Marvel's Annihilation. I guess. Well, we kind of teased this earlier. Marvel's Annihilation tease for return. So yeah, another event, which they feel like they're going in historical order, except for they missed a couple. Just bringing them all back, folks. Marvel Annihilation, which is the big cosmic event by, wasn't this Abnett Lanning?
Yes.
That just blew up the cosmic part of the Marvel universe.
Right. It definitely restarted. Right. It definitely restarted focus on that corner because the story, you know, that particular soil had grown pretty fallow because you know, in the wake of the Infinity Saga stories, the Infinity Gauntlet, Infinity War, Infinity whatever. I forget what the third one was called. Infinity Crusade. Jeez, I can't remember. I actually remember that. You know why I remember it? Because I own it. You know, after all that, you know, Marvel's cosmic corner of the universe really didn't have too much going on until Annihilation really shook things up.
Right. In fact, the current iteration of the Guardians of the Galaxy came out of this.
Correct.
The classic version. So yeah, look out for that. Apparently, Donny Cates is writing the current Guardians and Silver Surfer Black, and is involved in this project as well. We
see where it's going.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, these are the seeds that we're reading right now.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of something that we were literally reading right now, or just earlier, Jane Foster's first appearance as Thor shoots up in price on eBay as a result of the casting announcement.
And sure, that tends to happen with things like that. So, hey, you know. Really, if you didn't already have it by now, what's wrong with you? Should have got ahead on that. You know, actually, that's not true. But actually, you know, it is what it is. Well, we talked about this earlier. Fearless is the first chapter of Marvel's female-driven anthology. So I basically talked about this already, and this is just an article with an interview with some people that is some of the creative crew of the book. So you go check that out.
All right. Next up, this is actually on the confusing side. So who is Marvel's new king? So Marvel put out right after San Diego a teaser prepping the Marvel Universe for a new anonymous monarch. So it's a drawn teaser, and it features a blacked out figure in a crown and scepter, holding a scepter sitting on a dragon throne atop what could be Doctor Strange's cape. It was accompanied by the text, "Long live the king." So we don't know what that is. I don't think it was in this month's solicits. It'll probably be in the next month's.
I'm not sure either, because like I said before we started, I did kind of look through the solicits, but yeah, it may or may not have been there. Boxlow's art is seen here, and I think it's Cottonmouth from Marvel's Netflix's Luke Cage. Actually, I'm joking about that, but we'll see as things bear out. Next up, Charles Soule's next Star Wars comic will tell the story behind the Knights of Ren.
This is canon, people. Canon.
Canon, absolutely. So, which, you know, it was bound to happen because we dang sure haven't gotten much about it in the current movies. So, which I assume the next one's probably going to shed some light on. We would that. So yeah, Charles Soule's gonna write it, and say who's doing the art. Just announced writing the Rise of, yeah, I saw this tweet. You know, the one where everyone's dying to see about Kylo and the Knights of Ren? That's this. You're not ready. Hell, I'm barely ready. That was from Charles Soule's tweet originally. Yeah, no, doesn't see anything about who's doing the art on this though. So,
I mean, if they were ever going to take advantage of the platform to publish Star Wars canon,
trust me, there is no shortage of Star Wars books, as you and I both know.
Right. And no, but this is, you know, but to specifically lead into this movie, this is the time for them to take advantage of.
Yeah, totally in canon stuff, as you know, with the Lucas storyboard group. So all this is above board, and I still need to finish reading Poe Dameron. And like I said, Charles Soule, who wrote the original Darth Vader series, which is pretty damn good. You know, it just ought to be worth something. I think did he write Poe Dameron? I think so. Yeah.
So the next story is interesting. I don't want to spend too much time on this because it is getting late for us. But I'm interested into reading more on this because Hasbro made a Darth Vader figure that is truly hyper real by focusing on things that kind of break the fantasy of realism in terms of the visuals, and that's the figure's action joints, the action figure's joints that allow it to change its pose. So this should be an interesting read. I look forward to reading this.
Right, and like I said, this goes back to that other article that we talked about a little bit ago with the Luke Skywalker figure. So this is just another one of those that I alluded to then. So yeah, and probably going to be a similarly priced thing. But yeah, this is basically about the tech behind that, it sounds like. So it's worth a good read. Next up, DC Collectibles reveals new statues by Doug Mahnke and Todd McFarlane. Okay. So here's a bat, of course, because you got to have a Batman one. And here's black and white Batman.
Yeah, that Todd McFarlane pose is pretty. That's old school. That's straight out of his comic run. When he did some Batman. So. Yeah.
So, and you know, you can notice the style there. And of course, this other one, which is pretty cool in itself. So cool. More Batman figure. Yay. Next.
Yeah. So Tom King, writer of the Batman series, revealed a long-running question will finally be answered in Batman 80. Part of the current City of Bane story arc that will wrap up his time on the Dark Knight. So is that when I drop the book?
Well, I mean,
but it says it's the beginning of the end. I'm like, oh god.
I was about to say he's going to drop the book 5 issues later. So
right. I want to drop it.
I mean,
like I'm not completely on board with PCN_Dirt's feelings on the book, but even I'm getting frustrated. So
well, you got to do what you feel.
Yep.
The DC declares the death of the Speed Force this fall. So apparently, in the Flash, after the Year One story arc, I guess. Yeah, the title will jump to the present day for the death of the Speed Force. Joshua Williams revealed the news on his Twitter account, listing the creative team joining him as artist Rafa Sandoval, Jordi Tarragona, and Tomei Mori. So yeah. Have you been reading that Year One?
Sorry, no. I think I read the first issue. I'm not 100% sure where we are at this point. I did see issue 75 came out this week.
Right, and I think that might be the end of that or something. So I don't know.
It might be worth taking a look at.
Yeah, I don't know. Next up,
Deceased. The Teen Titans turn on each other on new cover. Okay.
So yeah, this is I guess this is for Deceased number 4.
That's the upcoming issue.
I think so. Yeah, because 3 just came in. These are probably going to be 4 or 5, but it doesn't really say here. Okay. Yeah, Deceased number 4 set to release August. So, and yeah, you can see a picture of that cover right there. So.
All right.
Next up, DC's Super Sons reunite for the first time since John Kent's return. So, which means you got a more grown-up John Kent and the still short Damian Rain going to meet back up at some point in Superman 16, looks like. So cool. Yes, as John's 5 years older, he's sitting on the biggest decision of his young life. Damian and John team up again for a rip-roaring adventure and a huge catch-up. These two best buds. So yeah, I don't know. So it's another Batman, Superman, but younger legacy. Except for one's grown. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be some jokes on that. Next.
Scott Snyder announced the new American Vampire series that's going to be published under the DC Black label.
Hang on, did you miss one?
Oh, I'm sorry. Supergirl acetate cover spoils a major Batman who laughs victim. Oops.
Yeah. And if you can see, I like that. So that cover looks good. I like it.
Okay.
And yeah, apparently Supergirl's going to be another victim of the Batman who laughs. So it's right there. Spoiler. Now, Scott Snyder announces new American Vampire series under DC Black label. So this was from the Scott Snyder panel from Comic-Con, along with the next thing, which I'll go ahead and take. Snyder Soul and Kamikoli unveiled their undiscovered country at Image. So this is a creator-owned thing written by Scott Snyder and Joel Soul, and art by Giuseppe Camicoli. So let's see. So, undiscovered country is set in a future where the U.S. has erected walls. Oh Jesus! And isolated itself from the rest of the world after decades of seclusion or small international expedition ventures inside the walled-off country in a desperate hope to find a cure to a pandemic plaguing the rest of the world. What they find, according to Image, is a vastly different version of America. I kind of wonder where they got the inspiration for this one. Not like there's nothing. Anyway.
You know?
Yeah. Clearly nothing ripped from the headlines going on about that. Next up.
DC graphic novels for young adults were previewed this past Friday evening at a panel at Comic-Con.
Yeah, so you can see some images from that, including, I think we talked about this, the Teen Titans Raven book by Kami Garcia and Gabriel, and a couple other things. Oh yeah, the Daniel Page Mero book, which mentioned about Matt's friend.
Yeah.
So yeah, so a bunch of that stuff got previewed. Next up, Superman Year One finale introduces a different Wonder Woman and a Batman. And Batman, not a Batman. So this October, like I said, we said this list is coming out. Third and final issues of Frank Miller and John Romita Jr.'s DC Black Label miniseries comes to a close, and yeah, the Trinity is comes into play, I guess. And there's some art from it.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, next.
This October, a new Batwoman is set to arrive in Neo Gotham on the pages of DC Comics' Batman Beyond number 37.
So Batgirl Beyond? Or Batwoman Beyond?
Batwoman Beyond, I think.
Yeah, sure. Let it roll. Batman just made Brooklyn Nine-Nine part of the DC shared universe.
Okay.
9-9. I don't know, but those people watch that. So yeah, Batman 75 apparently had which is out now. Yeah. Which had this
last week.
Last week. Okay, yeah. Which had this picture of the Joker and the Riddler in Gotham, what I'm assuming Gotham PD.
Right.
And you can see the desks are the desks of the couple of Brooklyn Nine-Nine characters.
Oh, okay. I noticed something, but it didn't ring any bells for me. So,
gotcha. So yeah, that's neat.
All right. Next up.
I think there's more than that, but that's the gist of it. She-Ra and the Princess of Power. Mattel makes the new BFS toy BFS. So yeah, there's new She-Ra toys coming down the line. And as a matter of fact, I will go ahead and take this next one. because where there's a She-Ra, there's a He-Man. Although except for not now animated form. Anyway, Mattel is bringing out the original vintage He-Man figures, now packed with articulation. And apparently I think there was a mistake that was on the original set where Man-at-Arms didn't have a mustache, but now he does. Because I think that's where I originally got this article. So yeah, there's a Masters of the Universe line, and I'm sure PC_Dirt and folks of that ilk will be happy for this. Oh, look at this. Highly articulated for posing power, for power posing.
Ay, ay, ay.
So, yeah. Anyway, there's that. Next.
Next up, a brand new Omega Ranger. I always get these. A brand new Omega Ranger debuts in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers number 41.
Why are you such a Power Ranger hater? Jeez, man. Come on. Have some joy. So, yeah, that is the book that came out this week, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we got a new set of Rangers and probably some toys that'll more than likely come along with said toys. So yeah, they're mega powered, not unlike the mutants, but they're not mutants. So I am not caught up on the story, and I know there was another thing that happened in between there, so I'll have to catch up and see what happened with that. Next, the winner of Ahoy Comics' Steel Cage match is everybody. Yeah,
I don't know.
So last month, Ahoy Comics released Steel Cage #1, a one-shot with a unique premise. The issue featured 3 stories, including potential concepts for ongoing series. Readers were given an opportunity to vote via Ahoy's website on which of the 3 stories should become its own ongoing series. Voting for the winner ran up until a few days ago, with the winner slated to be announced at the publisher's panel at SDCC.
I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. I was too tired to play this.
Yeah. You know, I feel like it's probably not even worth it. But anyway, so apparently all of those books are getting made.
Okay.
So, #1, Noah's Ark #1, and True Identity #1 will all debut in early 2020. So, what was the point? Next.
Boom Studios, in partnership with WWE, announced a new graphic novel starring WWE champion Kofi Kingston and superstars Big E and Xavier Woods of The New Day that's going to be released in 2020.
Who?
I actually know who that is.
Yeah, actually, I know who Xavier Woods is.
That's why I didn't play it.
Yeah, and I've heard the other name, so I was actually joking about that. So yeah, that's the thing. Wrestling will be. Mark Hamill is wandering Comic-Con, disguises his most iconic role. Now that was the question I was going to ask Matt when he was on earlier. Did he happen to see any of these folks or any of these? So apparently, Mark Hamill was in disguise with just masks, I think, going around as Luke Skywalker, one young, one old, the Joker, and Skips from Regular Show.
Yeah, he would have walked right past me in that Regular Show mask.
I wouldn't have known it was him, but I was like, huh, Skips, really? All right, cool. Like, I know enough about Regular Show to know that, to know the character name, to know the character at least. So I'm like, all right, well, probably wouldn't have thought nothing of it either way. So yeah, here's the tweet where he actually said as much. So, although I don't know, I'm like him going as old Luke or young, well, especially old Luke. I'm like, they'll be like, hey, is this actually him? You know, depending on how cheesy the mask looked. I don't know, but hey, that was the thing that happened, and which I probably wasn't the only one, but the only one that we know about right now.
All right.
Next up,
AOC and Freedom Force have been reelected for a sequel to their Devil's Due comic that was published just a few months back.
Right. So cool.
It's going to have a December 2019 release.
But I don't know if either one of these are the covers for this, but that second one's kind of funny. Oh, this is the alternative cover version. Yeah,
sure.
It's limited to 500 copies, and the entirety of the proceeds donated to immigration charities. To immigration charities President Trump would most likely hate. Was most
Nice.
so great. I like it. It's awesome. Matt Fraction, Elsa Chartier's November puts normal people in noir circumstances. So this is a kind of interesting one because apparently from what I read of this, it has something to do with what happened in Matt Fraction and Kelly Sue DeConnick's real life.
Mm-hmm.
So back in 2009, a police manhunt ended right in front of the door of Fraction and DeConnick's home, complete with cops, helicopters, and pointed guns. Fraction and his family were left to clean up the mess afterwards. When they were playing outside a few days ago, Kelly Sue DeConnick found a loaded gun that had been left in the bushes. That experience inspired Fraction's new graphic novel trilogy with artist Elsa Chartier. November follows 3 women who are caught up in a violent criminal situation beyond their understanding. So, yeah, and then I think this the rest is just talking about said graphic novel. So, look for that.
I was going to say that sounds like a movie pitch if ever there was one.
Right, and they do have a movie company. So, I mean, they do have a movie writing company. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up getting picked up some kind of way.
Seriously, talk about creating proof of concept.
Right? Hey, art imitates life also. So anyway, last stuff.
Last but not least, take the kids on a D&D journey with Young Adventurers Guide. So the new Young Adventurers Guides are going to come out this summer from 10 Speed Press and Wizards of the Coast. They're going to have all new illustrations and explanations of D&D rules, character creation, monsters, and more that are intended for ages 8 and up. So there's never been a better time to bring your kids to the role-playing table.
Right, and then we talked about this book probably last week after the show because I know because we both are mildly interested in one form of D&D or another.
Right.
And this is being written by Jim Zub and I believe his lady friend Stacey King. Because I know I have seen that name on his timeline a lot, and I believe that is and Andrew Wheeler. So yeah, he Zim being a big D&D head made a book for the kids, so it didn't get them in there. Start them early. What you do. So that's a thing that will happen if you want to get some youngsters into the D's and the D's. So cool, and that is it for the news. Holy hell, we got through it.
And you know what ad is appropriate for getting through this? It's for Wink, the personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torronté, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Ever try an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your tastes and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink Wines through CSPN. Do it today.
And as we finally hit the end of this here show, I will probably stand to use some alcohol, but maybe next time. Yeah. So guess what, folks? We're in the show. We will definitely see you all back here next week, probably with way less news.
All right, talk to me, Goose.
What was that?
Listen again.
All right, talk to me, Goose.
No, nice.
I'm a little punch drunk right now, folks. I'm just.
It's all good. We're running the soundboard. Yeah. So yeah, look for more of that to come. In the future. So for myself, Roddykat on Twitter at Roddykat, on News Nerds Needs on Twitter, News Nerds Needs Reddit, CB Caps on Instagram, Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_Dirt on Twitter. Pop Culture Net on Twitter. Pop Culture Network and .com, excuse me, and his umbrella sites therein, which I believe includes a He-Man podcast, so he can, this is all that. I'm sure he'll be on top of all of that. And the Osiris that is Ish. Tim, DOGG98 on Twitter. CB Kron on Twitter. The Click Nation on Twitter. That's DKLIQNATION. TheClickNation.com. And Comic Book Recesses, where he's over there writing his face off and provided some of the, a couple of the articles we have presented. And with that, folks, we will be back here next week. Same bat time, same bat channel with another episode of this here Comic Book Chronicles. Have a great night, a great weekend, and all that jazz. Peace.
Peace. One.
Good evening, Rick. Would you believe it's